Because you want them, if it's 2 weeks in a row, they won't read it if they see it the second time.
No, I think it's the same thing again.
Yeah.
And it'll actually be on June 3rd, but it'll be April and May. Yeah, it pisses me off that the city won't keep its own vehicles current. They did a good.
I missed Monday because there's some bad stuff. But I think the expo hall, you saw that contract, that's further testament of what y'all talked about, destination sports. And all these people.
Said, I don't know if you remember, we can get their start on
Oh, I was here. Yeah, no, but this is just a further example than the cities, I knew that I broke the story back on my blog and then TV picked it up, but that's a further example, so, I think, hey, Al, you have the distinction.
Yeah, I did.
This is true. In the last I guess you said that you'll take a real game. So I said, if you could sit down like that, assistant department head, and you so that means you do the special or else really something.
I'm really gonna be pleased.
Yeah, you're really a doghouse. You're either a top dog or a bottom.
I'm really gonna be pleased.
Well, he doesn't live in the city of Freeport either, though, so maybe they make an exception for city department heads that live in Freeport.
Green's the one who flagged it. I'm hoping for that. It wasn't Tracy. No, it was Green. I think I saw it a little while ago. Show me again. But show me again.
It's the one that has.
Yeah, you're the one. I can look right through you. You're so transparent.
When I was interviewed by Doug Warren.
Yeah. Sunburn. UV.
Okay, let's please call this public meeting together for the Caddo Parish Commission. It is 3:33 on November 19th. Mr. Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hopkins is here, but I don't see him. Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young,
Here.
Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Jones did let us know he will be a few minutes late today. Commissioner Gage Watts,
Present.
Commissioner Talaferro,
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins,
Here.
Commissioner Chavez,
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Here.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
All right, we have got 9 present and 3 absent, and that is a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Gage Watts, could I trouble you to do the prayer? And Commissioner Johnson, will you lead us in the pledge? All stand, please.
Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, how excellent is your name. God, how we come humbly before you, God, with your grace and with your mercy, God, thanking you for this day that you have given unto us. Lord God, we invoke your presence. Lord, and we ask, Father God, that you will guide us, oh Lord. Give us the wisdom, oh God, to make the best decisions for the citizens of Caddo Parish. God, in this moment, we pause, God, to remember the bereaved families, God, to remember those, Father God, who are going through very trying times, oh Lord. We ask, Father God, that you will help us, Father God, with the crime and the violence, Father God, that wreaks havoc through many of our communities. God, we thank you, Lord God, for the first responders, God. We thank you, Father God, for all of those who are in place, God, to help those with mental health issues, God. Lord, and we ask, Father God, that you will continue to bless us and lead us in the path of your righteousness. It is in Jesus Christ's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let us face the flag. All active military, reserve, and veterans hand the brown. All others hand on the heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, that brings us to agenda additions, and we do have a few agenda additions today. If you refresh your, or they should be available on your digital agenda and actually on your printed as well. But the three agenda additions would require a public hearing. Would you like me to read the three items and then hold one public hearing covering all three, or?
Yeah, I guess if you'll just read all three, and then we'll seek a motion to see if we can englobo and then have a public hearing.
Okay, the first item is a potential agenda addition that's a special resolution commemorating the Rockout All-Star Game in honor of the late Devin Myers, and that is from Commissioner Johnson. The second potential agenda addition is a special resolution commemorating the Veterans Affairs Asian and Pacific Islander American Heritage Celebration. And the third item is a special resolution, a potential agenda addition is a special resolution commemorating Memorial Day from Commissioner Epperson.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Is the
Motion to
Commissioner
englobo
Gage
all.
Watts is the motion to
Second.
englobo? Okay, so we have a motion to englobo and add these as agenda additions. I would like to open up the floor for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who is in favor of or opposed to adding one or more of these three items to our agenda? If there is someone in favor who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to expanding and adding these items to the agenda, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, Mr. Clerk, we can have a vote on this item to expand the agenda and include these three items.
And just for the record, that you have closed the public hearing now, and there is now a vote before you to expand the agenda to include these three items.
Thank you.
All right, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. That brings us.
Just for clarity, Mr. Clerk, where will we address these three agenda additions?
These are going to be in Section 8 as items number 8.5, 6, and 7.
All right, thank you.
And that will bring us to citizens' comments, where citizens who wish to address the commission on any issue other than zoning are asked to fill out a comment card located in the chamber foyer and return it to the president or the clerk of commission. You can return it here in this box to my left. And comments are limited to 3 minutes. We have received, I know, at least 4 items that I've already submitted to the president. Don't see any more in the box at this point in time.
Okay, Breon Dennis, please come to the podium. Welcome, Mr. Dennis. Thank you for coming down. Please give us your name and tell us what's on your mind today.
My name is Breon Dennis. I'm with the Frisco Rough Riders baseball team. I am originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. 3228 Stonewall Street is my mother and father's address. So basically, I'm coming home for 222 miles it took me to get from Dallas, Texas to here. I'm here to support the YMCA, their request for the multipurpose field that they're looking to build. But with that being said, I'm gonna use my time wisely. So I am a graduate of C.E. Byrd High School. I want to make sure you knew that. I also went to elementary in Queensboro, Lakeshore, and J.S. Clark Middle School. And part of the reason why I say that is the Frisco Rough Riders used to be your Shreveport Captains. So here I am now, coming home, 23 years removed from being here in this city. Got asked to come out here by the staff of YMCA to talk about this. And what's amazing is I live in a city that is a metropolitan area, which is North Texas. And what I can tell you right now is anytime people say, hey, are you from Texas? I tell them all the time, Shreveport, Louisiana is home. I live in Texas for tax purposes, but Shreveport is home. But I want to make sure as I support the agenda for the YMCA, I want to make it very clear. My support is for my nieces and nephews, for them who are still living here in Shreveport to have the opportunity to utilize that field for our community as a whole. And the last 5 words of community means unity. So as we have this field potentially being built, let's keep in mind that we want to make it very inclusive to all involved, from the cradle to the grave. So I'm not here just to lend my name as well as my stature in the community. But I want to simply say, had it not been for my time here in Shreveport, I probably would never been a kid who is now the vice president of a professional baseball team. So as I look here, Mr. Burrell, I want to tell you thank you for what you're doing in our community as well. My mom is still living there, but I want to make it very clear yet again, with the opportunity that's put in front of this parish as well as the city, we're here by crime time and time again. The deal is the kids need options, and I believe that we're going to have an opportunity for our parents to get a chance to live their dreams as well as the kids. A lot of times as a kid, we usually hear about MLK, I have a dream speech. I'm here to make sure that the adults dream. Keep that in mind, the adults dream. So I get a chance to come here, and it really stood out to me because I think about it. Somebody was at this podium 23 years ago speaking on my behalf. So I want to make sure that I may not be here to see everything get developed, but I can tell you right now that if there's anything I can do to come back to lend that insight to Shreveport, please keep in mind. If you ever seen the movie Men of Honor, one of the best parts about that movie was a son never forgets. And as a son of a black man and a black female, I came back home. So by me coming back home, taking time to lend a hand in Caddo Parish, it lets you know, no matter what you hear about people who may not support this city, guess what, folks? I came home. So please don't make me look embarrassed when I go back to North Texas, because I don't like the Cowboys, but I will tell you yet again, anytime I can come here to Shreveport, thank you again to the YMCA, thank you again to my dear friend Patrick Wesley. He and I got a chance to meet on a plane. That's how he and I connected, and anytime I can do stuff for Shreveport in 7 seconds,
You're good.
pause. I want to say thank you. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you for coming down, and we appreciate your input. And there's always a place for you back here in Caddo Parish whenever you're ready. Mr. Brandon Mars. Hello, Mr. Mars. Please state your name and your topic.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Brandon Mars. I'm the president of Shreveport Little League, and I'm here also on behalf of the YMCA to talk about the potential of new fields being developed. Mr. Dennis did a great job. You know, I'm heading out to the Little League right after this to go coach a baseball game. We've got 650 kids registered with us this year. We've done a great job of building up this program. I think they've talked to y'all before about the travel options and what's going on right now with baseball, you know, nationally. The recreational league is such an important factor. It brings people together, it builds community, it creates friendships, it allows people the opportunity to play the game of baseball, allows people to play the game of baseball without spending an exorbitant amount of money. These people are traveling out of town, they're having to spend a lot of dollars on hotels every night, they've got to eat out for dinner 3 nights a week or 3 times a day, and it just gets expensive. Gas prices are outrageous. We need to be able to provide an opportunity for our kids here locally, and I think we're doing that, and we need help. You know, our facilities are outdated. I don't think much has changed since I was there playing baseball 30 years ago. It's a challenge every day with our weather. You know, April, March, pretty wet months for us. It's hard to get those fields drained. It's a lot of work to reschedule and get the kids out there to play. And that's just what we're trying to do. You know, there's so much opportunity now, bringing in outside teams, tournaments, whatever. We know the financial and the economical impact that it would bring. You look at complexes in small towns like Ruston and Sterlington, Louisiana, Broussard, they've got a beautiful place. I think Shreveport is a little bit behind the time, and I think we can get there, and I hope that we can. It brings so much community together. This recreational league is for everybody. You know, travel teams, oftentimes they go out and try to make a team. It's like an all-star process. It's not for everybody. So those people that don't make the team don't get to play. And if we don't do anything to try to support our rec division, it's going to miss out or prevent a lot of kids from being able to play baseball, and that's what we do not want to happen. Again, there's a lot of friendships that are made out there. I've got 3 boys, and their best friends are all out there, and they learn to play sports with them. It gives kids an opportunity. It teaches them about teamwork and responsibility. So I think just going out there and helping us to just develop this with the YMCA is a great opportunity for this city. So I'm going to cut mine short, 36 seconds left. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mars, and thank you for what you do with our youth.
Thank you.
Shelton Harville, Sr. Welcome, Mr. Harville. Please state your name and your topic.
Yes, sir. I'm Shelton Harville, Sr. I live on 5327 LaChute Place in Keithville. So I'm not an original native of Caddo Parish. I'm from Red River Parish, God's country. But I've been here for 22 years, and I've been on Shreveport Fire Department. And I'm just going to piggyback on what they said. I am one of those parents that we're always traveling because my son, and I'm proud to say it, he is a top-rated pitcher in Louisiana for the 2025 class. And the difference is now he committed to Louisiana Tech, and he had offers from like 20 schools before he even played the first inning of high school ball. So what I mean by that is, in Caddo Parish, y'all, we're missing out. We're missing out on helping the kids, and not just that, the economic impact. Last summer, we traveled to Hoover, Alabama, which Hoover and Birmingham are like Shreveport, Bossier, and there were, I think it was 227 teams in that one tournament. So not only did they have the Hoover Metropolitan Center field, all the high school fields, I think one game we traveled like an hour and 15 minutes. So with that being said, I wish we had a facility like that here to hold something to where even if it's one kid that gets an opportunity for, for some eyes beyond the machine, or maybe it might be 3 or 4. We just don't have the facilities now. I mean, through traveling, I've made friends with a bunch of the guys from Perfect Game and PBR. So if we had a nice facility, I could ask Alex Armand, the head PBR director for Louisiana, to come up here and have a showcase. He might even donate it free, and you get some kid that didn't get the exposure, his numbers are good, then college coaches, or maybe even, like this gentleman here, maybe a pro scout could pick up on somebody. So that's the main thing. I think that the facility is a great idea. I mean, our facilities are outdated, y'all, I'm sorry. I mean, like we were in Hoover and we had a torrential rain, so I mean a thunderstorm. And when it stopped, 15 minutes later, we were playing. So we are in dire need. I mean, I'll give you an example. We were there, and it's in Atlanta this year, so we're there for 8 days. You think of 8 days of hotel rooms. Every hotel was filled, and I think we had to stay outside the city. So you think of, we're missing out on tax from the gas. Every restaurant was full. Everywhere you went, it was full. And I love Shreveport. Hoover, Alabama, and Birmingham, and these other places are no better than us. Actually, we've got more to do. Ruston's got a nice facility, but what can you do in Ruston? There's plenty to do here in Shreveport. So I think, guys, we're missing out. I think that it's warranted. It's been needed, but now's the time. So thank y'all, and I'm gonna cut my time short.
Thank you, Mr. Harville.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kenneth J. Kreft.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Members of the commission, Dr. Wilson, Kenneth Kreft, 157 Archer Avenue. And I echo the comments of the 3 prior speakers, having raised 3 boys who played baseball, the youngest of whom tried out at LSU for second base, had trouble making the first team, a gentleman named Todd Walker in the way. I want to thank Commissioners Young and Teleferro and Atkins for attending our Broadmoor neighborhood meeting night before last on the 17th. Triple J. They did a good job. In summary, John Paul gave information about his interest, very well presented. Mr. Teleferro gave a nice handout about achievements for 2021, and Mr. Atkins summarized on a parish-wide basis some of the things y'all do. You might have mentioned AAA bond rating, but you didn't, but that's something of which we should be very proud. I want to encourage this commission to move as quickly as possible on tornado warning sirens. 37 days ago, April 12th, a Tuesday, sirens went off in Benton, Minden, Homer, Haynesville, other cities. They're very helpful. Jim had mentioned smartphone notification. Well, that has merit and drawbacks. On June 11th of 2010 in Albert Pike State Park in Arkansas, where the flash flood warnings came, where the Caddo and Little Missouri rivers converged, 20 people drowned because they were notified in the middle of the night by text and by email. Conversely, a year or so later, in Texas at Guadalupe River State Park. In the middle of the night, the campers were notified by sirens. Nobody drowned. Some camping gear was ruined. You blast them awake. It doesn't, an email and a text won't wake somebody up who's sound asleep. Let's do what we can to move that along. Another topic, the Juvenile Justice Committee is moving along. We've had some good progress and some meetings, many more to go. I am concerned as a citizen that Senate Bill 418 passed the full Senate. It undoes, it makes the 17-year-olds adults again. The critically dangerous 17-year-olds are already treated as adults, but this bill that passed would, I guess the only advantage, it would save the Juvenile Justice Fund a few bucks because 17-year-olds would be paid by the adult system. And finally, I just want to thank Mr. Samuels, and I have a suggestion I made. It's tongue-in-cheek, but it's sort of neat. If we have a drone next month flying, spraying larvicide, I suggested we name it Mosquito Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Mr. Kenny Gordon. Welcome, Mr. Gordon. Please state your name and let us know what your topic is.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Kenny Gordon, and I am a member of the Eden Gardens Association. And I'm here to talk about the rash of shootings in the neighborhoods. I look at you all a lot on Facebooks. And I've looked at a lot of you who have come up with the ideas of trying to stop these shootings. And the ideas that you have come up with are relatively good. The thing that perturbs me is this addendum that you're trying to put to it, which I see is to allow AKs in a vehicle and it's not loaded. That to me is ludicrous, because it only takes a few seconds to load an AK-47, just like it does a 9 or an 8. That's not going to do anything. The original idea that you had is to ban it completely, because I heard a lot of you saying that with the AK-47, they can come, they can carry it because they might go to a range or hunting. No one hunts with an AK-47, and no one goes to the gun range with an AK-47. I also noticed that you said that this is not to prevent anyone from carrying a weapon. And I agree with you, because like a lot of you, I carry a weapon too. But it's not an AK-47. I don't need an AK-47 to protect me. A 9mm is just as good. A 35, a 22, all of those are good. An AK-47, that's a war weapon. It's for war. Not to come out and do drive-bys and shoot people. That's what an AK-47 is for. So I'm here to try and appease you to disregard that addendum and put it in there saying that, okay, we'll let them carry it as long as it's not loaded. You need to put it in there that it's outlawed. You're not supposed to have that weapon in your car. Most of the people that have that weapon, they're young and they're stupid and they want to shoot people. That's what it's for. It's to shoot people. And everybody's tired of their kids and their mother and their fathers and their grandfathers getting killed. All because you got these fools running around here and want to shoot each other. So my thing is, and I'm going to be looking, and I'm going to post it on Facebooks, those who vote for that addendum, and I'm going to let them know that if these people vote for that addendum to let them still carry those weapons, you need to remove them, because they're for the enemy. They're not for the victims. Because again, I reiterate that AK-47 is to kill you. It is not for hunting. It is not for going to the range. It's to blast people. And I'm gonna tell you this one point, and then I'll be through. I think the reason that they use those AK-47 because they can't shoot. Because a lot of you have mentioned that. Commissioner Johnson have mentioned it. Commissioner Jones have mentioned it. They can't shoot because they don't go to the ranges. So they need a barrage of bullets in order to try and get who it is they're trying to hit. And guess what? They never hit them. They always hit the innocent. So again, I would appease to you. I would ask you to not vote for that. That addendum of letting them carry that AK-47 in their cars, unloaded, that's ridiculous. I believe that it should be outlawed. And I know I said one thing, I'm gonna take one more. The reason that those people,
We have a motion to extend from Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Mr. President,
Calfaro.
Mr. President, and can you instruct the audience, we don't need no, we got a clerk, we got 2 clerks sitting over there and a clock. We don't need nobody to tell us time.
Or do we have a?
Can we enforce that rule? Because that is in our bylaws that.
I've got it
yes.
under control, Commissioner Jackson.
I'm just saying,
I've got it
our
under
rules
control.
say it's.
Are we ready to move forward with
Point
it?
of order, Mr. President. It is disrespectful to a speaker who is speaking to have somebody in the audience yell out time. And I like for us to acknowledge that that is rude.
You'd like for us to acknowledge?
I like for us to enforce the rules that we have because it keeps happening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Commissioner Jackson. Is that it, Commissioner Jackson?
Well, we're putting the onus on you as the presiding officer
Hey, I'm running my own meeting.
to make sure that everybody that's standing at this podium gets
You let
respect.
me run my meeting and I'll let you
Well,
run your meeting.
But you got to run it right.
Huh. All right, are we ready to move forward? Does everybody vote affirmatively to extend the time here? Yes. Okay, carry on.
okay, just give me one more minute. I just want to say that I have a lot of people following me. If you vote for it, they're gonna know it. If you vote against it, they're gonna know it. And I'm going to advise that they remove those individuals, vote against them, that's gonna vote for that. Because letting them carry that AK in their car, talking about it being unloaded, it only takes a second to load it. And then they can shoot whoever it is they wanna shoot. So if you do, fine. And I thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for championing me and giving me that time to express what I want to express, because I'm really passionate about the fact that these people are getting killed. I don't have any children. In my neighborhood, I try to make sure that nobody is shot because I have a direct link with the chief. So I care about people, I care about others, and I don't want it to happen to anyone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Okay, seeing no more visitors.
That brings us to visitors. We don't have any scheduled visitors today, so we can move forward to Section 7, where we adopt the regular session minutes. You do have the minutes from your May 5th, 2022 meeting attached.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell and a second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor? You want to have a formal vote, Mr. Clerk? Thank you.
Commissioner Burrell?
I saw him try to push it.
All right, that motion carries with 12 in support, none in opposition. And that brings us to special resolutions, where we have about 7 items today. Would you like me to go ahead and read all the items, or do them one at a time? I know that we do have at least one that will be presented in person today.
Which one is that?
The first item.
The first one? Okay, Commissioner Chavez, how would you like to initiate this one?
Let's, if we may, President, that way they can get.
Okay. Let's read the first one and then we'll decide how to proceed on the others.
Okay, the first item is a special resolution proclaiming May as Pediatric Stroke Awareness Month from Commissioner Chavez.
You want us all to stand, Commissioner Chavez?
Right.
Please stand.
So moved, President.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Chavez, a second from Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Okay, and as Commissioner Chavez makes his way to the front to present this, I will read it, and it reads, in the name and authority of the Caddo Parish Commission, the proclamation proclaiming Pediatric Stroke Awareness Month. Whereas pediatric stroke is a relatively rare condition affecting 1 in 4,000 infants and an additional 2,000 children each year, it is also a top 10 cause of death among U.S. children between infancy and the age of 19. And whereas 60% of children who survive a stroke will have permanent neurological difficulties that can include cerebral palsy, epilepsy, impaired cognitive function, impaired movement, and lost or damaged vision, hearing, and speech. And whereas pediatric stroke affects each child differently, and it is known that early detection and awareness can improve outcomes, and increased awareness eases the social burden on survivors as they adjust to the impacts of pediatric stroke. And whereas Caddo Parish is fortunate to have a local survivor and advocate for pediatric stroke awareness in Ava Sophia Candler, who suffered a stroke in utero, leading to a premature birth and many challenges in her infancy, culminating in a diagnosis of cerebral palsy spastic hemiplegia. Candler has undergone a decade of occupational and physical therapy and numerous medical procedures and surgeries, even as recently as a tendon surgery a month ago. Despite this, Candler lacks fine and gross motor function of her left side and must often work twice as hard as her peers. Whereas Candler has chosen to work twice as hard as her peers and has become a flourishing, successful fifth grader in advanced classes who serves on student council, participates in choir, cheer squad, and Girl Scouts. Candler's hard work deserves recognition in itself, and even more admirable is her desire to use her experience to increase awareness of pediatric stroke amongst teachers, parents, children, and the community at large, where she would like it known that pediatric stroke survivors and their families want to be accepted, understood, and treated equally by peers and adults, even when being treated equally includes the need for accommodations in school and other areas of their lives. Now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission does hereby proclaim the month of May 2022 as Pediatric Stroke Awareness Month in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and urges all citizens to join with the parish in recognition of this important month. And be it further resolved that the Caddo Parish Commission wishes to thank Ava Candler for her advocacy and ability to raise awareness about this important subject, commends her for her accomplishments, and asks the citizens of Caddo Parish to practice acceptance and understanding of those who face challenges. And that's signed President John Atkins, Vice President Roy Burrell, and District 10 Commissioner Mario Chavez.
Thank you. Everybody please take your seats. Commissioner Gage
You might be
Watts,
seated. Ava, I want to applaud you for coming down here to receive this award and for your strength and determination and how hard you're working in school despite the limitations, that you're doing great things and you're an inspiration to your peers and your family is so proud of you. So thank you for coming down here. Do you have anything that you want to say to anybody?
Hold on, Commissioner Chavez. I think we've got a few people on the board.
I know they want to talk to you. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything to them. You want to wait for them to talk first? You have a speech prepared?
Thank you for inviting me down here. I wanted to read a quote that connects to all of this. Our uniqueness, our individuality, and our life experience molds us into fascinating beings. I hope we can embrace that. I pray we all may challenge ourselves to delve into the deepest resources of our hearts to cultivate an atmosphere of understanding, accepting, tolerance, and compassion. We are all in this life together. From Linda Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of the commissioners want to say something to you.
Commissioner
President?
Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Candler, as I watch you walk over here and listen to you just give your statement about why you advocate for us to be aware of Pediatric Stroke Awareness Month, is one of the things that we do not take lightly around this horseshoe is always raising awareness about things that affect our community. Your tenacity, it is contagious, and I know that you are a great advocate and you are what we need to change our communities so that we can all be educated by why these things are important. I'm often asked about why do I raise awareness about things like this, and it's because of people like you, because you need to be seen. And I'm glad that Commissioner Chavez decided to bring a person down today so that we can see why we support this. And we hope that this proclamation, this resolution that you're receiving today is more than just a piece of paper. It is saying that we care and that we're advocating for you also. So thank you for your work in our communities.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Anyone else on the board? Commissioner Burrell.
Well, I want to also congratulate the young lady. I have a personal story myself with my grandson who had a stroke when he was born. And today he is at LSU in Baton Rouge. I think he's in his second year in sports management. So there's a lot that you can do even under those circumstances. So I applaud you and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Anyone else? Seeing no one else.
Thank
Ava,
you, commissioners.
Thank you. We're so proud of you. Thanks for all you do. Thank you very much. Okay.
All right, would you like me to proceed with?
Need to vote.
Oh, we need to vote. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, we still haven't.
Mr. President, I got a motion, a substitute motion to englobo and
Commissioner
approve.
Jackson, could we vote on this? Or did you want to do this before the vote? Or
I was
after?
going to just take them all and englobo all of the special resolutions. All as one.
Could you just, I'd be happy to welcome that in a moment, but I just want to
Yeah,
check something else out.
I don't know the difference, but go ahead.
Okay. All right, let's vote on this one, please.
And right now, I'm sorry, we're voting just on this item, and it is adopted with unanimous support, with 12 in support, none in opposition.
And before we take up Commissioner Jackson's proposal, I just wanted to make sure, is there anyone else in the chamber that needs to, somebody like Commissioner Epperson, you may want to read your.
Right, I won't mind reading.
Okay.
Yes, if y'all like to englobo and adopt them, and then let me know which ones you'd like read into the record, I'm glad to do it.
That'll work. If Commissioner Jackson, you want to make that motion?
That's the motion I'm making.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson, a second from Commissioner Burrell to englobo and adopt the remaining special resolutions and then address each one individually that would like to be read aloud. Let's vote, please.
All right, that motion carries with 12 in support and none in opposition. So let's see, which ones, I think I heard Commissioner Epperson request the Memorial Day item be read?
Yeah, does anyone else need the resolution to be read? There's no one from the Maritime, there's no one from the port here, is there?
Not today, no,
Okay.
we will communicate it directly to them.
All right, so it sounds like only Commissioner Epperson's will be read at this time.
Okay, and one moment.
Commissioner Epperson, how would you like to address it?
We don't need to stand. It's
Okay.
a standard holiday, but I just want to emphasize the fact and make some comments after it's read.
Okay, so the clerk will read it.
Okay, I'll begin. And this is in the name of and by the authority of the Caddo Parish Commission proclaiming Memorial Day 2022. Whereas since our nation's inception, brave men and women have given their lives to protect our freedom and service to our great nation. And we have strived to honor their sacrifice through historic burial grounds and battlefields, memorials, and other tributes that recognize the fallen. And whereas in 1967, a federal law declared that the last Monday in May is designated as Memorial Day beginning in 1971. And whereas Memorial Day is a day of remembrance and celebration in honor of the heroism and valor of the members of the United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force, and National Guard. And whereas the parish of Caddo pays tribute to the fallen, our veterans. And whereas on this day, and our communities across the United States of America, we remember loved ones who have given the ultimate sacrifice as part of ongoing conflicts, as well as those who fell during previous conflicts and war. And whereas on this day and throughout the year, the parish of Caddo joins citizens in their sorrow and pride for the fallen, and in giving thanks to those who made the ultimate sacrifice to keep our nation free. Now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission in due and legal session that it does hereby proclaim the 30th day of May 2022 as Memorial Day in Caddo Parish and commend its observation to all citizens. And that is signed Commission President John Atkins, Commission Vice President Roy Burrell, and District 12 Commissioner Ken Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to speak?
Thank you. We all know that Memorial Day is a significant federal holiday. However, I just want to emphasize the fact that it should not be taken as cavalier as it has been. The beginning of the vacation season, barbecues, furniture sales, car sales, mattress sales. The reason for Memorial Day is for us to recognize and honor those that have given the ultimate sacrifice, either in battle at a period of time when they were KIA, or veterans who had survived various war periods and now they have transitioned. We must never forget the sacrifices that they made on behalf of this nation. Even in this day of time of so much division and contentiousness, let's not ever forget the significance of Memorial Day. Check with your Veterans of Foreign Wars office, your American Legion post, the Northwest Louisiana Veterans Cemetery, and make sure that you are aware of any form of recognition to recognize those that have made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of this nation. And God knows we need that remembrance now even more because of the way that this nation is heading. So I would ask that please do not take Memorial Day cavalier as far as vacationing, barbecuing, mattress sales, car sales. Please remember the original significance of that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Okay, so that brings us to communiques and committee reports.
And committee reports, absolutely, where the first item of the day is responses from the administration to information requests from commissioners.
Does anyone have anything for Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Jackson, you're up. They cleared you off. Commissioner Epperson, you're on the board.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Wilson and I don't see Mr. Weaver in, but we had received some concern relative to all of these signs that are placed in public right-of-ways, and I understand that Public Works has been enforcing that. There is a procedure in a place where signs should be placed. It adds to the litter. We have all the cleanup campaigns, and we wake up one day and we see gun and knife shows. We buy houses. Electricians want it. We demolish houses. Power washing. And no sooner than they put them out, the wind blow them down, or the Public Works Department come by to try to maintain the public right-of-ways. They are down, they're spread out in the street, and they are a safety hazard. Those coroplast signs that are knocked down and blown in the right-of-ways, if you were to hit brakes on one, you're going to slide. And those signs, to my knowledge, are illegal. Even our political signs. I've seen political signs that are still up months after the elections are over. This gives a negative blight to our community. I think this is just an important part on making sure that we abate litter as fast food wrappers and beer cans and other trash that's deliberately thrown out over the signs. It's a constant battle. So thank you all for enforcing that and trying to do what we can to make sure that Caddo Parish and the city of Shreveport is clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Gage Watts.
I think Commissioner Jackson was on the board.
He was on the board. Commissioner
Yeah, I
Jackson,
was.
you
I
were on the
should've
board
been.
and then you came off, and I don't know.
Yeah, I should have been. I can go last. I don't have nothing. I can go last.
Okay, Commissioner
Thank
Gage.
you, Commissioner Jackson. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I have a quick question. I just wanted to get an update on the tornado sirens.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The last time we visited, we had a plan to work with the city's crime center and see if they could integrate with the cameras, the sirens for the new poles they're going to be putting up. So I need to get back with Keith at the city and find out where we are with that.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
glad Mr. Criff brought that up today because those sirens are very important for our citizens in Caddo Parish, and we are one of the larger municipalities that does not have access to these tornado sirens.
Yeah.
And everything that we can do to save a life, we need to be a part of it.
I agree.
I know that I've advocated for it for a while and had everyone's support on moving forward, and I just wanted to let the public know that we are moving in the right direction and looking forward to seeing those tornado sirens come up really quickly in Caddo Parish. Next, I want to publicly thank everyone who reached out to me and who prayed for my son during this last sickle cell crisis. He is doing much better. We still have a long road ahead, and I ask you to continue to keep him and us in your prayers. And I also would like to inform everyone that on this Saturday, the 5th annual Shreveport Citywide Sickle Cell Motorcycle Event Ride will be held in Morning Star Baptist Church, is where the motorcycle ride will begin at 10:15 a.m. I will share this information with our clerk so that each commissioner can have access to it, and ask you to share it on your social media platforms as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Burrell.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. I'll have only one thing here, and that is, and I believe I've addressed it in email, but I'll just make it public, that Dr. Wilson, that we will get a report on the 2022 disparity study as it relates to our procurement.
Yes, sir. We plan to appear before you on the June 6th work session meeting and give you an update on the feedback on that report.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Vice President Burrell. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I'm not sure who to call up or task with this, but last year and early this year, we discussed setting aside some of the summer job spots for some of the youth at Juvenile Detention Center. Do you know if that was able to be accomplished?
I mean, the regular.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The regular program we have to hire a different program?
Either one of them, because I think we funded two, but I know last year I was told it was too late, and so I tried to get on top of it this year, and I know I asked well before we started the process and was told that we would get that done. I'd like to know if we were able to get those spots reserved for them.
For the juveniles that go to our center?
For not juveniles that are incarcerated, obviously not, but those that are
come through the center,
that have come through or been identified as nonviolent, you know, maybe their first time getting into a situation or something and just need probably some guidance or something. But what's the and then I also haven't heard anything about the. I asked you a couple of days, probably a week or so ago, about the one stop. If you could follow up and get back to me on that with compliance. Has the check been cut for that?
Yes, sir.
The check has been cut?
Not yet.
Okay, because there was some compliance provisions that need to be complied with before that we voted on that need to be met.
Yeah, we pulled the ordinance and looked at it. Eric and I did already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And had chance.
If you don't have an answer now on either of them, but I would like, I want to just put on the record that I'm asking because, you know, I had a conversation with some folks yesterday, and they talked about getting youth into a job, you know, and I try to run down everything. Nobody wants to hear that we're trying, this is what we're doing, this is what we have tried. They want to know that we are doing something now or responding. And I think, you know, what we discussed was maybe 5 or 10 of those spots being reserved for, so that we can look and maybe have a data set to go from with working with those nonviolent juveniles who may be their first offense. If that type of sort of work will motivate them to do better, and I'd love to know where we are with it, or even if we made the attempt. I can tell you that when Miss Muriel Burns was over there, she always had a list of students, and for me to send, and I haven't seen that since she left. So.
Okay. Okay, we revisit that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Talfero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to say, give my sincere thanks and appreciation to you, Mr. President, to John Paul Young, Director Wesley, and Director Samuel for attending the Broadmoor Neighborhood Association and really giving us an opportunity to do some bragging on the stellar services that we provide to the citizens of Caddo Parish by working together. And it was just a sincere pleasure to go to that meeting and be surrounded by these fine employees, and give the opportunity for us to do little bragging rights, for Caddo Parish. So I thank you all for doing that for me.
Just to be clear, Commissioner, you are bragging on the Team Caddo, not on us, but on Team Caddo.
That is
right?
that is true, Mr. President. That is true.
Thank you. I
That is
just wanted
correct.
that
Let
to
the
be
record
clear.
show that it's Team Caddo. You bet.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Talfero. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to take a moment to respond to the comment that the gentleman made about our gun magazine proposed ordinance. I appreciate the comments that he made. We're all very sympathetic and moved by the tragedies that result from having and using particular types of weapons on our streets. The tricky thing about this rule is that we probably don't have the legal authority at all to regulate assault weapons or guns, really, of any kind. That authority is strictly confined to our state government by state law. The public has never voted for us to have the authority to regulate guns in Louisiana, but they have voted for the state legislature to have that authority. It's a decent legal question, and we're not sure what the answer is, whether we even have the authority to require them to disengage a magazine from a gun while they're in a car. If we do have that authority, I think that it would be wise for us to use it. Something else that we could do as a community, as a commission, is ask our state legislature to pass different rules about guns that would help keep them, help keep particular types of guns off of our streets and from killing innocent people, which they're doing at an alarming rate here. So, and I would just also like to suggest that some of the commissioners, particularly the commissioner who proposed this rule about guns, I think is planning to offer his services in the state legislature, and if we, instead of opposing him, supported him in that bid, he might go on to the state legislature and try to make a difference in the place where the authority exists to regulate guns the way you'd like to see them regulated. So I just wanted to let the gentleman and the members of the public know that, because we all want to do what we can, but we have to follow the law about what we actually can do. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. All right, let's see who we have now. We've got Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to remind everyone again about the root cause having their second crime prevention symposium. They're going to be, Compassion for Lives is the actual group. They're going to be at Bilberry Park this time from 11 to 2 on May 28th. If you can make it by there, please do. Thank you to the commissioners who made it by when we were in Hollywood. So if you have an opportunity to get by there, please go by there and take whatever resources that you may have to be able to assist with this symposium. Thank you.
Thank you.
11 to 2.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Epperson, second time.
Yes, I forgot to mention the Northwest Louisiana Veteran Cemetery, located in Keatville, Louisiana, will be doing a Memorial Day service on Monday, March 30th. You can call 318-925-0612 for details. They're going to have the flag placement on the tombs, and then they're going to have the actual memorial ceremony on Monday starting at 11 a.m. and then they'll have the flag removal. So if you'd call that number to get the particulars. Also, the Veteran Celebration Committee along with Leonard C. Barnes, American Legion Post 450, and the Bill Cockrell Park Council, will hold a memorial ceremony on Thursday, March 26th, beginning at 10 a.m. The Barksdale Air Force Base Honor Guard will be there to go through the entire protocol of a military funeral, including the 3-shot volley, folding of the flag, rendering of taps, a complete protocol of a military funeral. Also, each family member that would like to recognize their veteran that's transitioned is encouraged to bring an 8x10 photo at least and get them registered. They will be called out. They will be given a coronation and a rose and an American flag. And they will come down and be announced and will light a candle in memory of those deceased veterans. We like to do this because it's going to be totally inside. We've had situations with outdoor memorial services because it was so hot and the weather was inclement. A lot of the seniors had issues with the weather. Plus, this gives a personal touch. This will be our 3rd year doing it, and it has grown exponentially, and it adds a very dignified and personal touch to the Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson, second time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I didn't know this was general communique. I thought we were, so I didn't get a chance to get some stuff out. I did want to announce that this Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., there will be a food distribution at Mount Canaan. It's running from 9 a.m. to noon. And so if individuals who are in need of food distribution or food insecurity, this is a partnership that they utilize and that we help support through the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana. And that'll be at Mount Canaan. There's also a walk for lupus this Saturday, May 21st, 9 a.m. to noon. That'll be at Columbia Park. I think Commissioner John Paul Young, that's somewhere in your area. But the principal of Cherokee Park sent it to me and asked me if I would announce that. Also, Dr. Wilson, if you could have, or Ms. Bryan, if you could have Parks and Recreation reach out to, I'll send y'all his contact, but there's a program that's gonna honor Valencia Vikings on June 25th, and I'd like to see how our Safe Summer sponsorship can be working with it. They did reach out to see how what support can be offered. I think we usually do hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff like that. So,
Do you have a contact?
his name is Nathaniel Manning. He's the chair in that. And I'll, instead of calling his number out over here, but I do want to just kind of give y'all a heads up that that is coming. Also, Dr. Wilson, and Jeff as well, we need to get the Q2 Amazon TIF district meeting set up. So we probably need to get with Tabitha and get that on her radar since she's chairing, since we selected her as chair. And also, Dr. Wilson, I thought we were supposed to put together a letter to send to the IDB to get the funds for the planning grant funds.
Yeah, I thought they already voted on that, didn't they?
Right, but remember, they said that, I believe David said we just had to send them a letter requesting it, and I thought y'all were gonna take I think it's just a letter for their files or whatever saying that, I don't know, y'all dress it up.
Yeah, I get what you after this.
Yeah, y'all got
What's
the
the
word.
amount? 50,000?
Yes, 50,000, but I think y'all are better with the words than I can be. I just say, give us the money. But y'all can spruce it up and make it say what it needs to say. And I appreciate y'all on that. The last thing that I want to address was a young lady who came down, and I think everybody got a message from Ms. Linda before this meeting today about a situation involving a young man over at CCC. I had to leave, I had to run out, and unfortunately, that young lady is not here today. But you know, it's unfortunate that on one hand, the community is outraged about crime, the community is outraged about juvenile crime and teen crime, but on the other hand, we have parents who are making statements saying that we are setting the bonds too high. The public needs to understand we don't set bonds over here. Okay, district attorney's office doesn't set bond. Okay, and you know, folks have called me, and one thing that I will not do is get out in front of something without researching. Okay, and when they first passed that bill in the legislature for 17-year-olds, I don't know anybody down here who was against it. But then we realized we had we had some questions. Space-wise, right? We had some questions, but we wasn't against the concept.
Right.
I should thank you for that. We wasn't against the concept of moving the 17-year-olds back if we could manage the space issue. And we've run up against a wall every time we turn around. But you've got some teenagers, and I want to put this on the record, and I know the stream is running and folks are tuned in. I'm not going to support parents coming down here telling us that now we're being too tough on these teenagers that are committing these crimes. That is the most absurd thing I've heard. And when you look at some of these track records, I'm not saying we got to throw everybody away, but I will not sit back and allow us to be beat up on both sides of the issue. Because what'll happen is those same parents whose children are running around here wreaking havoc on this community, as soon as somebody pop their child, and for those who don't understand what I mean, pop, kill them. As soon as somebody kill their child, they're gonna be the first one down here talking about what we didn't do. And I'm offended to be getting calls right now saying that juvenile bonds are too high. What are they doing? And we shouldn't have them over there at CCC. That's the other complaint. Why y'all got them over at CCC? The question should be, what are they doing in jail in the first place? and that is my concern. We have a balancing act up here that we have to do, and I think the public needs to understand our role in this, but they also need to understand that we've got to be fair across the board. And when I look in somebody's rap sheet and they got rape, you 17-year-old committing rape, you know, I that disturbs me. But that's the mindset that we as the elected officials have to deal with. How can we justify going to a judge, telling the judge to reduce a bond for somebody who done raped somebody? And so they can go walk around on the street and recruit more teenagers to be a part of this foolishness. I've heard the preachers in our community say for a long time, we got to have a family conversation about some of this foolishness, because some of it has to stop. And I would have asked us to suspend the rules, so I could have responded, but I had to run out because that's just not right. Todd, somebody called me from Vivian yesterday wanting the housing corporation to step in on the eviction. I told them they should call you. But the woman up there carrying on, acting the fool, and I told that she getting Section 8 from the parish, but Dak Prescott is also, foundation is paying her rent. Y'all need to look into that. Yeah. So, you know, we've got to have things. I'm for the people. I'll come turn it. My mama taught me this. I will turn a place out for you when you're right. But when you're wrong, you're gonna get this chastisement. And we got to get to the point to where folks understand the difference between right and wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Seeing no one else on the board, Mr. Clerk?
That brings us to our next item, which is the President's report. Did you have a?
Yeah, I will mention a couple of things. One, I wanted to let everybody know that there is another street dedication, Commissioner Jackson, down on Elby Road for a much deserving individual, Pastor Calvin Austin. That will occur at 3 p.m. on Sunday at his church on down Elvie Road. If anyone's interested in attending, I'll be there, and some of the other southern commissioners may be in attendance. And then you all would be interested to know that Martha Carter's retirement from 911 will occur on Tuesday 24th. There's a retirement ceremony Tuesday 24th at 11:30 a.m. At the 911 building. All right, that's all I had, Mr. Clerk. Carry on.
Okay, that brings us to public hearings, where our first section for public hearings on zoning ordinances and cases. We do not have any scheduled in that section today. So we'll move forward to public hearings on ordinances, where we do have one item today. Now keep in mind, we do have 2 ordinances to be considered for adoption today. One has already had its public hearing and not received any substantial changes since that hearing. So it is on for voting, but does not have a public hearing today. And I just say that to avoid any confusion later in the agenda. But right now we come to the public hearing for ordinance number 6229 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay fund and the oil and gas fund for the year 2022 to provide an appropriation for the construction of the YMCA baseball complex and otherwise provide with respect thereto from the Economic Development Committee.
All right, it's a public hearing, right?
Public hearing.
All right, so we open the floor. I'd like to open the floor, or do I, we'd like to open the floor for public hearing. Is there anyone to speak for or against item number 6229? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Carry on.
Okay, that brings us to zoning ordinances for final passes, of which we have none today. So we will move forward to ordinances for final passage, where the first item that you have to consider is ordinance number 6224 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverbank Fund in the amount of $6,000 to provide an appropriation for the Greater Shreveport Chamber Foundation and otherwise provide with respect thereto. That was a recommendation from the Appropriations Committee that was
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson and a second from Commissioner Jones, I believe it was, to approve ordinance number 6223. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on this ordinance?
Yes, just very briefly, that this came out of the committee process. When they originally brought it to me, it was 50,000, I think, and then we jumped down to 25, and then I think even in the committee, we dropped it down to 6,000 or 10,000, and then we dropped it down to 6,000. The vast majority of the funding will come from the city of Shreveport as well as private donations. So this was a commitment. Had we adopted amendments in our budget process, this would have been one of those amendments. And so that's why you're seeing it now. And I did ask them to go through the committee process. So that's why it took the time that it took. So
Okay.
don't want anybody to think that we're playing out of order here. So thank you, Mr. President.
Is that it, Commissioner Jackson? All right, seeing no one, Commissioner Epperson.
Is this the appropriation for the painting of the stanchions?
Yes.
Of the road crossings?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is part of a project of a leadership school that the chamber sponsors. I'd just like to say, I'd like to see some projects that are more community and business specific. You know, we got this this analysis, I think, by one of the media outlets that the city's most deadliest zip codes. You know, wouldn't that be a nice project for that those leadership gentlemen and women in the chamber to go out and study the social and the economic anomalies that's occurring within our community, which would be something more conducive to economic development and business growth than painting some stanchions. It appears as though that should be something to nature with the what they call Shreveport Art Council.
Yeah, sure.
Shreveport Regional Arts Council.
Yeah, Shreveport Region. You know, if you were training leaders and you're within organizations that's supposed to be advocate on behalf of businesses, shouldn't your criteria be emphasizing on things that's going to enhance the leadership qualities of those individuals that you are training? If you acquiring your PhD in a higher educational institution, and you are focusing on atomic energy, your dissertation should not be about drinking water. It just doesn't make sense to me on this item. Management, labor relations, the downfall of industries within the economic realm of our cities and our parishes. But painting stanchions? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson.
Mis-
Seeing no one else,
No,
did you want to respond?
Yeah, no, I don't want to necessarily respond, but I would encourage, I do think that leadership class, and I think Commissioner Epperson asked for a curriculum on it. I don't know if he ever got that curriculum, but I do know one of those sessions, I believe, is with the parish.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, I know it has never been done, but I think maybe a session where commissioners participate as a part of, and I thought I saw Tim in here somewhere,
He was, man.
but where, you know, commissioners and city council members participate in that city and parish session so they will know what we do, what our role is, and things like that. And that's just some food for thought so that they will know our roles and responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Okay, seeing no one else on the board, I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Okay, that item passes with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. And that brings us to the next item today, which is ordinance number 6229 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the capital outlay fund and the oil and gas fund for the year 2022 to provide an appropriation for the construction of the YMCA baseball complex, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Jones and a second by Commissioner Young. Substitute motion. We have a substitute motion from Commissioner Burrell.
I have a substitute motion, Mr. Chairman, to take a portion of this money to consider the Stuart Bell Stadium. And then if I can get a second, I'll explain it.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Jackson.
We've talked about, Mr. President and commission members, that we don't have facilities here like the one that we're trying to construct for the YMCA. I am totally supportive of this
Can you
facility.
speak in, I don't think they can hear you.
I am totally supportive of the YMCA and what they're trying to do here. At the time that they actually built the facility out behind Knight Street, where I used to work as an engineer with Bell South, I was concerned that they were moving much of the activity outside of the central portion of our city, because it was really tough for many of the youngsters to get out there unless someone who was a part of that program in that area to transport kids from our inner city into those areas. As you know, in the area of baseball, there has been such a dramatic reduction of young black players in baseball, partly due to the fact that it's an expensive sport. The young man who was up here before was talking about how you had to travel, which takes a lot of money. You have a lot of talented kids, but if they had access to these facilities, I think they would start back to playing baseball, which is something that I think that in terms of sports was one of the sports that many, as we called Negroes at that time, early on, was a part of and had opportunity to be a part of. But a lot of that has dwindled over the years for a number of reasons. The Stuart Bell Stadium, the reason why I bring that up is a facility that Shreveport had which now, the old stadium is behind Galilee Baptist Church, 1500 Pier Avenue. It is a structure that the Galilee Baptist Church took over in a swap from the city of Shreveport. They swapped the old Galilee Baptist Church for that stadium. But it was a stadium that actually Negroes could not even attend. They could not even go to the ball games over there, according to Shreveport's history, before they built the one at the state fairgrounds. And now, although they've invested money into that facility there, it still stands. It's historical. It is called the Stuart Bell Stadium because two of our what I call heroes of Shreveport, the stadium was named after them. Riley Stewart, who was a part of the National Negro Baseball League back in the 1940s. He was a pitcher for the Chicago Giants, a World War II veteran. He played for the Memphis Red Sox also. And Albert Jawan Bell, who had a hitting average, home run average of 381 and a batting average of .95, a Huntington Park graduate. And he was the first player to hit 50 doubles and 50 home runs in a single season. He played for the Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox, and the Baltimore Orioles. And I'm saying that to say this: we have a historical facility that is a true facility, and money has been put into it to bring it up, but yet still we ignore these facilities because of where they're located. But there's still activities that's going on there. I've talked to Patrick Wesley about this facility and about bringing more activity in that facility. He said there's some programs there, but there's still not enough. I think Caddo Parish does participate some in it, but I would like to see some of these resources being placed in a facility that we can actually still use, one that is historical, and one that is centrally located also, that we can use as a feeder to the YMCA facility that is out behind LSU. That's my particular take, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little passionate about it because I hate to see facilities like this ignored, and we put new money into other facilities, and the people who say we are trying to help can't even make it there. Remind me of, and I'm through, remind me of Walmart, and places like that that moves outside the core of the city, and the people have to struggle to try to get out there to try to get groceries, try to get hardware, because of transportation. And I think we need to start looking more at within our central core. And I just happen to be an urban commissioner, so I have a passion for that.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we have a substitute motion to allocate a portion.
I would say at least $500,000 toward that, because I think it's $2 million that we're asking for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I think that would be a good start, at least for us to consider it.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion to allocate $500,000 of the $2 million being considered to the Stuart Bell Stadium.
And it's a nonprofit too. It's not a religious.
Okay. And with the balance being allocated to the YMCA.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have several people on the board. Commissioner Epson, would you like to speak on the substitute motion?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, I'm against the initial proposal. And also, I have issues with the substitute motion too, because it brings into play to where I think we need to go back to the drawing board. If you all may recall, I had several questions that I had asked to be the answers given to me, and I finally got them. And then once I got those, I asked for a follow-up. And since I made that in the public meeting, I think it's only fair that I give the answers in the public meeting. The first question that I asked was, how long was the plan in process? And the answer was, since April of 2015. Second question, who was involved? Was school coaches involved? The answer, the Y staff, high school, and youth baseball coaches. The third question, is the location in unincorporated area of the parish, or is the location in the city of Shreveport? The response was, the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana was incorporated in 1923, which I know that, I didn't even ask that question. And this youth sports complex is in the city of Shreveport. That was what I wanted to find out, whether it's in the unincorporated area of the parish or the city of Shreveport. So it's in the city of Shreveport. Why was Caddo Parish chosen first to seek funding? The answer, the state capital outlay was first, corporations were second, and private donors were third. Now, see, if you notice, it didn't mention any any governmental entities. Number 5, how much funding are you requesting from the city of Shreveport and the Caddo Parish School Board? The answer, we have not established that yet. Number 6, when was the decision made to build a new Y in Forbin? Who was involved in that planning? Who administered the final decision? The answer, April of 2015, same period of time that the inception of the sports complex was in place. The YMC staff and grow development and the YMCA board. Number 7, what was the final cost of the Forbin Y that was being built? The final cost is still being determined. The final cost is still being determined on a new facility. And yet you're asking for funding that you've been deliberating, you said, for the sports complex at the same time. Why was the Y closed on Broadmoor? We had the opportunity to update and expand in a different direction. Remember these answers now. Why was the Y closed on Hearn Avenue? A financial decision. A financial decision proposing a sports complex since April of 2015, proposing a new Y in Forbin since 2015, closed the small one down on Hearn Avenue because of a financial decision. How much private funding has been secured for the proposed sports complex? If any, please name donors and amounts. $900,000 in private corporate funding and $1,445,701.37 in state funding. Number 11, it appears as though Patrick Wesley is a strong advocate for this project. While he was employed as Assistant Director of SPAR, was he a strong advocate of the Y Sports Complex while he was working for the city of Shreveport and securing funding? The answer, we never met with Patrick about the complex while he was employed at SPAR. Patrick has been outspoken a long time that Shreveport needs to begin capitalizing on the booming travel sports industry. Started deliberating in April of 2015. We're here now in May of 2022. Number 12, were any entities or individuals, government or private citizens informed of the proposal or invited to participate in discussions relative to the idea of the sports complex from West Shreveport or West Caddo Parish? Answer, yes. Once I received these questions, it spurred some follow-ups. I asked for follow-ups. Number one, how long was the planning process? I'm sorry, it's the wrong sheet. My first follow-up was to 2A. That's 2A. Now 2 was who was involved, was school coaches involved. Okay, so 2A, that's my follow-up question. What high schools, youth baseball coaches, please list schools, teams, and names. I have not received any answer to this point in time. Number 6 on the original. When was the decision made to build a new Y in Forbin? Who was involved in the planning? Who administered the final decision? That spurred me to 6A follow-up. Who or what is growth development? You notice they mentioned growth development. To this day and time, I have not received an answer. I don't know what growth development is. 6B, list all Y board members and contact information from 2015 to present. Still no answer. 6C, were any funds requested from the Shreveport-Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau? If so, how much? Would you think that this would be something that the Convention and Tourist Bureau would be involved in? Because we're bringing in all these people and all these RVs and all that travel money here. 6D, any funding from the casinos? If so, how much? 12A, list the entities, government agencies, private citizens, and persons from West Shreveport, West Caddo Parish that participated.
Yes, Mr.
I request an extension of 3 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have
Move this then.
We have a motion.
We actually did a 3 minute.
Do we have acclamation, by acclamation extend? Okay, continue on, please, Commissioner.
12A, list the entities, government agencies, private citizens, and persons from West Shreveport, West Caddo Parish that participated in discussions of the sports complex proposal. What time periods were they at the table? Still no answer up to this point in time. As I stated, I'm against this because these are some very strong, valid questions. We're talking about getting consultants to give us, paying $250,000 to give us information on what we need. And we talk about the economic impact. I did a little study, and I think the parish and the sheriff, and I think the school boards, if we were to recoup $2 million, which we are going to expend for that venture, that means the people that's coming here will have to put over $108 million worth of spending for us to recoup $2 million in tax money. I'm not against the project. I'm against the way that it has been brought to the table. And I know the process. Once we get somebody to the table, we count the 7, the hell with everybody else. You know what I mean? We got 7. We got the votes. It's inherently not fair. A good project, but could be deliberated and discussed more than it has been. Now just think of this. In Greenwood, from Greenwood all the way down to behind the airport to the Cargill Sports Complex, you have 3 RV parks. From Industrial Loop to Buncombe Road, and let's spread a little bit more to Monkhouse, you got about 15 hotels. Also, you have petrol truck stop, Flying J, that can handle these RVs. We got repair shops that can do maintenance on them within that area, which would enhance all of that area. from 71033 to 71129 to 71119 to 71109, all of those districts. We need to get back to the table and have more people involved. The Shreveport and Convention Tourist Bureau need to be involved, and other entities need to be involved. Of course, it's a worthwhile project, but it's a sin and a shame when you get your little group together and you count to 7 and you say to hell with everybody else. And I think Mr. Bell went to school at Huntington. I think he was there with my son. But I am against both proposals. I think we should vote to delay this and go back to the drawing board where more people are involved, and it won't give the impression that we have the administration that's advocating on behalf of an entity. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Chavez, would you like to speak at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to try to make it brief, President. It's a lot to unpack. There was a lot of questions, a lot of answers, but I feel like we're comparing apples to oranges. The gyms that we spoke of, with the Foreman gym, with the gym that closed, gyms, and I'll speak for myself, but this also came unanimously out of the Economic Development Committee. And if we're going to do Economic Development Committee and we're researching things, and this has been in research since 2015, this management arm of the YMCA, they do different things. They run gyms where their target client is the local area, and their economic impact is only hyper local on people coming to that specific gym. That's not at all what we're discussing here. From the Economic Development Committee, we passed this unanimously, and what we're referring to is a sports complex. All the money that we're going to receive from this sports complex is from out of town, from a $15 billion industry that we're missing out on every single weekend, when every Friday our families in this city leave and go to surrounding cities and spend their dollars in hotels and restaurants, from Texarkana to New Orleans to Monroe to Longview, and we see none of that traffic. So I have no idea why we're comparing gyms, why a gym got shut down in one area and why it raised up in another, but it's because of a management team that understands economics. And when they understand they don't have a viable product in one location, they get that. And that's the beauty of what we have here. We have a sports complex to attract this $15 billion industry of a management arm, the YMCA, that's willing to do this for us and partner with us, that's not looking to just be a YMCA product, but a Little League product, a Dixie product, that's going to include and affect all of our children across this entire parish, not just in the means that they'll be able to go play at this sports complex, because the YMCA at that location is already achieving that. Somebody addressed the transportation. They are busing in children from all over this city and parish to take swim lessons there. They have the logistics covered. That should be a moot point. We're not talking about gyms here. We're talking about a sports complex and the economic development, the true economic development that I think we have yet to see for a long time in this city. And I know other commissioners here, because I see them on the ballpark with their children, are looking forward to this. This outfit has procured the land, got the money from the state, got the money from private donors. They're here asking us if we want to partner with them. We have our own administration telling us we can afford this. This makes sense. We vetted this from the Economic Development Committee. I don't think we should come here at the 11th hour, take a piece of this, because they've already identified that they're not done. They still have a little bit farther to go. So to ruin this position of the progress that they've made, and I'm not saying that that other scenario that Commissioner is speaking of doesn't need to be funded, or we don't need to look at that, but I think that we should look at that back in the Economic Development Committee, absent of what we already have here, ready to move forward with the people of Caddo Parish. I'm gonna support the $2 million, and I'm going to not support the substitute, but I will support looking at that from the Economic Development Committee to see how we can help that area. But even after we approve, if we approve this $2 million, The YMCA is not done. They still have to go to the city. They still have to lobby other citizens and private entities to make this a fruition. And I hope it leaves here today with them being accomplished, that they are that much closer to helping us, Caddo Parish, truly be an economic driver, and that we're ready for this. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Jackson?
I'd like to offer up an amendment to all of this to stipulate that funding must be secured from the city of Shreveport, and funding must be secured and matched from the private donors. And what was my other? Well, those are my amendments. Those funding matches. And if I can get a second, I can speak to it.
Second.
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Epperson.
You know, my amendment is harmless, and I'm a little surprised. I'm a little shocked, but not surprised that Commissioner Chavez is not jumping all over that amendment. I've been on this body now for 6 years, 7 years, and anytime something big, this amendment is nothing different than what we put on for the Caddo Common Park for Shrek. This amendment is nothing different from what y'all required to be put on for the medical school funding. This amendment is nothing different that was required for some of the ARP, particularly the one for the Universal Basic Income, the one for the Galilee project. But it's quiet today. It's been well vetted. Commissioner Everson sent some more questions in, because in the initial presentation that was brought to this body, it said that the conversation was going to be had with the city of Shreveport. But my sources at the city of Shreveport say nobody's ever even talked to them about this. They don't even know about this. They're moving forward with the sports complex at Stageworks. But if we had came down here, or some of us had come down here with a $2 million request, some of y'all would be falling out of your seats. And then you'd be trying to do it up to an amount. And what about this? And, you know, is there any conflicts of interest in it? This is the equity, not equality, the equity that I be talking about. Because this amendment is standard for what we have done in the past. And we talk about apples and oranges, but we have lowball things in the past. And then we run down here, and when it made sense and it was good, yay, look at this. I have some serious concerns about this whole thing, but I at least want to make sure we've done what we have done the entire time on large capital projects is we have required. And if I'm lying, we can go pull the cooperative endeavors together. It's in black and white. We have required that funding be verified from the private donors. And if you're telling us that the city or the school board is going to match, we've required commitments. That young lady, and I tell her no all the time, Maquee Jackson come down here, and we told her we wouldn't even put her thing on the agenda until she got a commitment from the city of Shreveport to be a partner in it. What they call that on this? Where is that? Where is that consistency on this? I know the season is propping up, and we got to get that push card together. And, you know, now we got to be down here falling over the table for everything. But I just saw a release the other day. Dr. Wilson, did you get it? That the city of Shreveport is spending $3 or $4 million on a sports complex right down here. At the old stage work. Did y'all get that release? Because I got it.
Yes, sir.
So we need to figure out how is all this going to work together. Is the city of Shreveport going to partner with this? Is it not? I'm gonna tell you what else has also been, we've also required when we've done large capital projects like this. We've asked for some type of naming recognition. Is that a part of this? No naming recognition?
It is.
It is? Okay. I apologize if I missed that part of it, but I hadn't heard it. I have not heard it.
They did a presentation.
Well, but we've always put it in the legislation. And that hadn't been put in here. So I agree with some of the concerns Commissioner Epperson has raised. I agree with some of the concerns Commissioner Burrell has raised about why are we always trying to send things on the peripheral as opposed to investing in what we have. I know we got some preservationists up here because some folks tell me that they fear that their districts are going to be depleted as other districts are being built up. So why should people have to leave where they are in their urban settings, in their community? What this says is we're not going to make an attempt. When you do understand, as well intended as you might mean, when you tell some people that you're going to bus kids out of the inner city neighborhood to somewhere else, do understand that that's an issue. And we got to look at this from all sides of it. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I would at least like to see us be consistent across the board. And that's why I'm offering this amendment up, because I think it's equitable and it is what we have done before. I hadn't heard anybody talk about the price tag. Interesting. Hadn't heard anybody talk about the price tag. Commissioner Gaines Watts talked about doing universal basic income, and people thought she was trying to write a new verse in the Bible. Came down here, tried to sabotage it. It wasn't even $2 million. So why all of a sudden now we got to hit the go button? Go, 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 go on this. Let's be fair. Let's do for all that we will do for one. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Myself being the neophyte on this body, because I don't have the luxury of the experience of what has been done in the past and what you all have done as a collective body before I arrived, without being a private citizen and just pulling public records. When I took the opportunity to do more research on this particular project, I saw it from two angles: economic impact and just being a parent who is actively involved in the sport of baseball. And since we're talking about this particular complex and baseball is the center sport, I thought about something Gary Sheffield said, because I'm a huge baseball fan. Me and my papa watched the Cubs and the Braves coming up because that's what came on, television, TBS, and that's what we watched. Those are the two teams that we got locally. And then Derek Jeter was drafted to the New York Yankees, and I was able to access ESPN and watch a lot of Yankees baseball games. And so that's how I really got into it. And so something Gary Sheffield said in 2007 that a lot of people may not remember, but he said, one day you're going to look up and see faces, black faces on the baseball field, but there won't be any English coming out of their mouths. The reason why he made that statement was, it's because, and Gary Sheffield is a black baseball player, or retired if you don't know who he is. He's pretty darn good, so you probably should. But nevertheless, he made that statement not to be racist or to throw a shot at the Latin community, but to talk about how travel ball and AAU had taken away the scouts from coming into the African American community to find the better baseball players. My uncle Kevin Pickens was the first African American pitcher at Louisiana Tech University. Shelton left, I hate he did, but he's one of the trainers that works with Shelton's son, who signed as a pitcher for Louisiana Tech before he ever threw a pitch in high school. A lot of that is because Shelton has to take Shelton Jr. all over the country to be seen. Because of travel baseball, because of AAU basketball, baseball, the scouts don't come looking. The kids are now forced to get to the scouts. And we have an opportunity for our children to be right here to get to the scouts. Now, something I want everyone to keep in mind, and we just have to be honest about, and I asked my Uncle Kevin, I said, hey, do you think the African-American community is interested in baseball? Because I keep hearing, you know, depleting our community and this, that, and the third, but we don't have this problem getting kids to football practice in the black community. We don't have this problem getting kids to basketball practice in the black community. We don't need buses, any of that. How do I know? I have been doing this since I graduated high school. I've been a volunteer youth coach. I've never gotten paid since I left Captain Shreve High School. I've coached almost every youth sport that you can coach, except for swimming and soccer. But my middle son plays soccer. I see it all the time. YMCA has a great soccer program. There are African-American children who can find their way to the east side of town for practice and for games. So I think as far as this incident, here again, I don't have the luxury of being here before. So whatever, you know, issues that brought everyone at odds before, I wasn't involved in. But I think this particular project brings us to a place where we can say, hey, if we're going to be serious about our children getting involved in baseball, then we actually got to get some folks to go coach it. There's an urban league right now that they're trying to have. Nobody's trying to coach it. Nobody's trying to get their kids out there because it's not as attractive as baseball and basketball and football within the black community. That doesn't mean what the Y is trying to do is incorrect. What we probably should do is get with the coaches who are more interested in football and see what we can do about a complex and some fields for them. And put that on the west side of town where there's more than enough room to do so. I don't have a problem with doing something at Bell Stewart Stadium. I really don't. But my issue with that is what's going on over there. Nobody's playing ball over there. That baseball park has not been packed since I played softball as a child when the Mount Hermon district was running that field. They had an urban league last year that former pastor of that church asked me to bring my T-ball team over to, and I straight up told him, listen, if it's not going to be organized correctly, I'm going to put my child where my child can have the best opportunity. And that's what I did. I sent other kids over there who parents just wanted them to participate. But you know why the numbers are down this year? Because no one is being intentional about actually teaching the game. It's one thing for me to spend my money, but it's a whole other thing for my child to not be developed properly. And that's why I asked the folks from the Y, how much are you going to put and invest into the coaches, knowing what they're doing and taking proper training so we know that these young folks have what they need to be successful. Yes, it is a very expensive sport. Very expensive. We were supposed to have 5 tournaments this year. That turned into 10. You got gate fees. You got tournament fees. Sometimes the coaches want to change the uniform in the middle of the season. We had to have a Mother's Day uniform for a Mother's Day tournament because they want to wear pink for the mothers and put their names on the back. And I'm all for that, but that stuff adds up over time. And it's just not a sport everybody can play. It's a skill sport. And it's not anything wrong with children who say, hey, I'm not feeling baseball. For a lot of people, it's a boring game if you're just not into it. But what I'm not going to do is, as a parent, because I don't have a child who's actively playing football, because I know there's a group of coaches right now who are advocating for having football fields, turf fields in our city. And they're working on a plan before they come to us to ask for everything. They're trying to find private donors before they ask us for anything. I'm not going to sit up here and say, well, no, we don't need to do that. That doesn't make any sense because football's on the decline because of concussions. And a lot of parents don't even want their kids playing football anymore. I'm not gonna say that. I'm still gonna push forward. At the end of the day, how long are we gonna continue to look over opportunities for us to expand the economic development opportunities that we have in this area? The young man said earlier, Ruston has a really nice set of fields, and they do. And they're all turf fields. Right next to the turf baseball fields is a basketball arena that they have tournaments in, and it's really nice down there. But I promise you, as soon as the game is over, I'm hightailing it out of there, because there is nothing to do in Ruston. I enjoy the fields, I enjoy the tournament, but I want something to do after that.
Commissioner Jones, you're over. Would you like to ask?
Give me just a couple more minutes. Thank you. I would hope that we find a way to, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be about the young people having opportunities. And I just want to know how much longer we're going to take to create these opportunities. And I understand the concerns of everybody here, because what I would like to see, should we approve this, is this same type of energy. I don't know if it's going to happen. Here again, I don't have the experience of being a part of these type of conversations till now, but I would hope we can keep the same type of energy. I have a special election coming up this year too, and this has nothing to do with it. Nothing. So I would hope that we're all using our positions as it relates to this for the sake of the children, not for pomp and circumstance, not to say, hey, this is what I got going on and I need to bolster my resume. No, we need to do this because the children need it. We need to do this because the children need it. And if there's an opportunity for the young people to be able to get, if they want it, they'll get there. They'll get there. My son plays for our AAU program in basketball, and we don't practice anywhere near Cedar Grove. But he's going to get there because that's what he's interested in doing. And as a parent, I'm going to make sure that he gets there. And if the coaches really want the players, they'll come pick them up. That's what youth football coaches do all the time. That's how I know they can get there if they care. If we had baseball coaches who cared in the inner city community, they would get the kids there, but they're not interested in it. And that's just honest to God's truth. They do not care about baseball like that. They care about basketball and football. So it's not in need of harming the other children who are interested in the inner city in the sport by saying, well, what are we going to do about these kids? They could care less. They're excited about what's going on with their basketball venue. That's what they're excited about, because that's what they play. So if we really want, and this isn't just about Shelton Jr. or my child, there are other young people. Kendarian Harris at Byrd High School right now is a top prospect in this area, but his mom spends a lot of money and busts her butt to get him around, for him to play in premier programs. We can bring that to our children because they're not going to be able to make it to the scouts. Bring the scouts to them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Burrell has spoken once, Commissioner Epperson has spoken once, Commissioner Chavez has spoken once. Commissioner Johnson, this is your first time to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. About 10 years ago, I asked the question, what is Shreveport Caddo Parish known for? In 1 or 2 words. I still haven't got an answer to that. This is an opportunity that we can have to get that 1 or 2 word, what is Shreveport Caddo Parish known for? The city of Shreveport is working on stage works, which is going to be volleyball courts, basketball courts, tennis courts, indoor soccer. That's what stage work is going to be about. This is going to be a baseball sports complex with what they call tournament eligible fields, which means that the infield has turf on it. Cargill is not that. That's why Cargill can't get these type of tournaments that we're talking about coming to Shreveport, is because if it rains, it's a rain out. Bossier has done it with Tinsley Field, and they get more tournaments in Bossier than we do up here in Shreveport because they invested in the infields. It's about investment into our youth. If we don't invest in our youth, what's going to happen? We're going to continue to have homicides. We're going to continue to have juveniles doing things that they shouldn't be doing. This is giving them opportunity. Now, what we should be talking about is after we vote on this, is where we're gonna put some 7-on-7 football fields, because that's the next biggest industry in sports for youth. 7-on-7. We need to be trying to figure out where we want to put that at. Instead of talking about this has already been mapped, done. It's there, pretty much. I think it's about $7 million facility that they're trying to do, and they're asking for $2 million. So the matching piece will go way past the $2 million. So that part is mute. We're about 20 years behind when we talk about sports facilities, and even in the conversation we had in the economic development meeting is not just build something that will match what they just got to building in Ruston, because by the time this is built, Ruston will already be trying to do something to say, well, we can do something a little better. And so do something that will make it a jewel in this particular area. So with the softball, with the baseball fields that you're gonna have being put in, with what the city's doing with Stage Works, you're gonna start becoming a sports mega center. The next feat, just like I said, would be the 7-on-7 football fields. That would be next. And now we are a site where you're gonna have different tournaments going on year round. People come into Shreveport instead of our kids leaving out of Shreveport, traveling everywhere. There'll be some rotation into Shreveport, into Caddo Parish, to get some of this tax money back. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Lazarus, I think this is your first time to speak.
Call for the question.
We have a call for the question from Commissioner Lazarus. I heard a second.
It was Todd.
From Todd Hopkins, Commissioner Hopkins. All right, Mr. Clerk, we have a call for the question.
This system just went down. You'll have to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do a roll call vote on call for the question first. So, are we ready for the roll call?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
No.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell?
No.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts?
No.
Commissioner Taliaferro?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez?
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus?
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson?
No.
Okay, so we've got 8 in favor and 4 opposing, and for call for the question,
It passes.
sorry,
8, 4,
It passes.
4 against.
I believe that does pass, yeah. It needs 2/3 of those, so that's right, yeah.
Okay, so the question has been called, and that question is the.
So we'll start in the order of the amendment that is it's the second substitute motion, which was, I believe, from Commissioner Jackson.
No, point of order. I didn't have a substitute motion. I had an amendment to all of it. So my amendment I want my amendment to apply to the substitute as well as the main.
So we'd be voting on whether to attach your amendment
Right.
to both motions?
To either other proposal. Okay, so that is the first question that'll be before you, is the amendment that would tie it to matching funds from City of Shreveport and private donor.
Stand by, Mr. Clerk. Attorney Frazier's on the board. I want to make sure that we're in compliance, and should I have any concerns?
All I was going to do
Please
was,
speak into the mic, ma'am. We can't hear you.
all I was going to do was suggest that you take each of the 2 main motions and do a question with an amendment to each of those separately. But it sounds like you're basically about to do that. So.
Correct. Yeah. So I think what we're going to do is we'll do. So what you're voting on right now is whether to amend the substitute motion, because that's the motion that's on the floor, and then the amendment to that motion. So you'll vote on whether to amend the substitute motion that Commissioner Burrell made. You'll vote on that first. Whether that passes or fails, that will then impact that substitute motion. Either it will change it or it will not. Then you'll vote on that substitute motion. Whether that passes or if that is adopted, then you're done. That's what was adopted. If that fails, you'll move on to the original motion, and you will consider this amendment for the original motion and then,
It's an easy
Okay,
way.
so.
and then that.
So the
Is that,
vote- the
I know
vote-
that is clear as mud, but I believe Donna understands what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, but we
I
gotta
think
vote
so.
on it. We gotta do it.
All right, so
I think so, but I honestly do think it would be easier if you took each one separate. If you voted on the amended motion, the first amendment with the third amendment together. Then if you voted on the second amendment with the third amendment. And
I'm
then
not,
if you-
now I'm not understanding.
Yeah, I'm not following.
So I think, so are you saying,
Why we can't just vote on the amendment?
Yeah,
And
I
if it
believe-
fails, then we go to the next amendment. And
Correct.
If that fails, we go to the original motion.
And
that's,
that's it.
that's, I think what,
I mean, that's simple.
that's what we, yeah.
All right. Mr. Clerk,
So whether or not, so right now, I think the question was, and I agree with Commissioner Johnson. I think that what we can do right now is consider Commissioner Jackson's motion was to amend either one. I think you can vote on it right now, and if it fails, then it does not apply to the substitute motion. So you can then take up that substitute motion. And then if that, fails, then you would go to the first motion, and we
okay,
could get
okay.
clarification if we need to consider that amendment again.
All right, so let's move forward. We are voting on
Right
whether
now
we
you
are approve of or against the amendment that Commissioner Jackson has proposed.
Correct.
And what is that amendment? Would you specify?
Mr. Clerk, could you please restate the proposed amendment?
The amendment is that the funds be matched by funds from the city of Shreveport and a private donor match.
Okay, we ready to vote? Oh, wait, Commissioner Jackson, are you on the board or is that old?
No.
Okay. All right, we're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. All right, and that motion does not carry. It has 4 in support and 8 in opposition, none absent. So that brings us then to the substitute motion, which was from Commissioner Burrell to take $500,000 of the proposed $2 million allocation and put it towards Stuart Bell Stadium.
Okay, stand by. Commissioner Jackson?
I would like to note that the question wasn't called on all previous matters, so I'm in the queue to speak.
Well, I'm not sure.
Question was just called, but it wasn't called on all the motions on the floor, so.
Okay, so the parliamentarian is saying the floor is back open for discussion?
The call for the question didn't say on all motions. You said call for the question. Our habit is to say call for the question.
So it would have been on the amendment.
all motions.
So we called for
Okay.
the question on the amendment.
Commissioner Jackson, were you on the
Yes,
board
sir.
fresh?
Yes, sir. And I just want to be clear on my amendment. My amendment is not to try to kill anything. My amendment is to simply say, let's do what we have always done. Whether it looks like the votes are there to pass this, all I'm saying is, let's do and let's be consistent with what we have always done on large capital projects. We've never not required the match to be verified. So that's all I'm saying. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Burrell. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Johnson.
Point of order. I'm not on the board.
You are on the board.
Question. All debate ceases.
No.
We're done talking. It's time to vote.
He didn't
The
say on
problem
all the
was,
motions.
Commissioner Chavez, is that according,
Did anybody ask him for a clarification?
well, the parliamentarian,
We done voted already, though.
We didn't, there wasn't.
I think it
an
ends.
official need to clarify. No. And we voted on it as it was
We
stated.
voted on it. We can't talk anymore.
You can get on the board and call for the question again on all motions. Right.
Yeah, because you did.
yeah, that's right. I mean, I'd be all for someone getting back on and calling for a motion on all motions. But right now, the floor is back open. So Commissioner
correct.
Burrell.
That's correct.
Are we on mine?
Well, I think so.
motion, or-
Commissioner Johnson says he's not on the board, so,
Oh, if I am on the board, I'm
No,
for the
he's
question.
No, he's not on the board.
well,
He spoke earlier.
I'm next.
all right, Commissioner Burrell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for additional confusion, but that's okay. But anyway, I was going to speak on mine again. I think Commissioner Jones, in his statements, really made my point for me that we really do not invest in our planning programs in our urban centers, not invest in the urban centers. Maybe projects outside the urban centers that creates problems for many of the youngsters who may want to do baseball. You know, I don't like to stereotype our kids in the urban areas that we only are football heads or basketball heads. You know, we have a lot of kids now that's playing soccer. Matter of fact, my grandson, he was in the urban area, but he was in New Orleans. He's probably one of the better players now that they're recruiting him in Baton Rouge. So we don't know where these kids are going to go and where they're going to wind up. But we got to invest in these urban areas and put facilities where the parents can get there on the bus, because every coach is not going to go and pick up a kid. And in many cases, the parents may be at work or what have you, and they can't take their kids. So yes, I'm an advocate for placing facilities as well as programs in the urban centers. And another statement he made I thought was good was we must be intentional. I think we should be intentional. If we're going to ever have anything to restore our urban centers and the kids who need it the most, is that we must be intentional. Going to something Commissioner Chavez made. He said I will support the $2 million, but I'm not going to support peeling off $500,000 to an existing facility that's historical. That's historical in nature that we have not invested in. We can talk about all of these bad A kids out here, but yet and still we still put our money outside from where these kids are living. And what I was offering was a compromise. You have a facility there that is historical, that has been invested in by an institution, and they do have programs over there, but they are not intentional about the programs there. You can use that as a feeder to these larger programs. So if we want to continue to put money into crime facilities and mosquito abatement stuff in the urban centers, those are the only two things I know since I've been here that we invest in the urban areas. Most of the other monies with the commission goes outside that area because we say, oh, well, the city does everything in the city. Well, they don't. And let me tell you that they don't. So all I'm saying is that, we need to look at compromising and be intentional about what we're doing. If not, we'll never come together and develop anything for the betterment of everyone, not just a few, or those who can afford to take their kids out somewhere and allow them to have the same opportunities as kids who are in our inner core. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Upson, I'm going to ask you a parliamentarian question. Is this a fresh start for you, or is this is this your third time on the same topic?
Debate starts all over since we
start fresh. Okay, you're up.
So, Mr. President, while you're asking that question, since we're starting all the way over, I know that everyone else had already spoken. I just had not spoken, so I had that question also. Okay, thank you.
You still on the board, though?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Upson.
Okay. What I've heard here boils right back down to what I'm trying to emphasize. Everybody needs to come to the table. We're talking about the football complex, we're talking about Cargill Park that's outdated with dirt. You know what I mean? That should have been upgraded. We need to come back to the table with this, where everyone is involved. I think everybody's not against it. We're about the process as to how we got where we were. And we keep tiptoeing through the tulip, piecemealing here and piecemealing there. 20 years from now, we'll still be in the same shape. We need to get to the table and come up with a comprehensive program, starting from scratch, involving a lot more persons that was at the table initially. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. I'm now on the board. I've waited my appropriate time as a member of the body, and I would like to call for the question on all remaining motions.
Second.
The motion was called by the president, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. I'm ready to vote on that.
Right, and that motion does not carry with 7 in support and 5 in opposition.
All right, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Point of clarification, madam. It can't be called for twice, right?
Well, it reopened debate, so
Right,
it's a new.
okay. Gotcha.
If it's new, then it's new, so it can be called
Gotcha.
for.
Okay.
But yeah, it does need a 8 to 4 vote.
I just was asking for clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we talk about consistency, it never ceases to amaze me about certain topics, something of this just for our communities, how much we've all discussed this and had some type of input today. And I'm surprised that I had not heard something that we normally hear is send it to committee. Now, with that being said, I had to mention that for several reasons. I do believe that the majority of the body is in support of this. I do support the substitute motion because I do believe that we have an obligation to our inner city. However, if we are proposing alternative solutions, I think that also means that we have a lot more of discussion. At the same time, I know that we cannot continue to afford not to do anything. And as it has been stated, that this is something for our entire community, more than just economic development. It's also community development. I do believe that this will be an identity for our city, for our parish, that we have to start somewhere. And we constantly are behind. We travel a lot. We go to economic development conferences, and we do know that sometimes all the times when we come back to Caddo Parish, we feel like, we're in a time warp, because we are not making real decisions at the proper time. What I've heard also that it's not a rush today, because this has been an initiative since 2015. For the last 7 years, it's been a discussion. So regardless if we pass this today or step back and look at other alternatives in how we can support this initiative, we are still at the table talking about doing something moving forward. I also agree with the amendment that we have never not included another entity in matching funding. And so that would also be something that is up for debate or fact check. I do understand, as Commissioner Jones has stated, that, he is, a neophyte in this, and he doesn't know, all of the nuances about the way that business has been conducted, which I think is a great caveat. because it doesn't make you biased. And it shouldn't make any of us biased about our decision on development in our parish. However, I think that we've spent a lot of time on this today, and I believe, and if I had not already spoken, I think the proper motion would be for it to go to committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This did just come out of committee, and it was discussed at great length in the committee. On the matching piece, I think the matching part has already been done. If I heard that the state is giving over $1 million and they already got $900,000 in private matching, private dollars, that's $2 million already. So the $2 million that we were talking about putting in has already been matched, and the total is $9 million. So they still got $7 more million to go get. I mean, not 7, but 3 more. I think that's right. But you know what I'm saying. There's still more money to get that will go beyond the matching piece that we're talking about. So that's why I wasn't too far worried about the matching piece, because a lot of time when people come to us, they hadn't gotten anything. But they already came to the table with almost $2 million already. And that was part of the caveat to say $2 million and not $3 million or $4 million, because it was already talked about in the committee of you already got this amount, so if this came up again, it's already there for us to matching. We'll sit and we'll prolong, kick stuff down the road for a month, 2 months, half a year. And sometimes we just got to pull the trigger on something. I mean, there are some things that I think we move slow on and some things we move fast on. This has been in the works for a while. It's about timing too. I mean, to put this out in the summertime, to say that this is going to happen, it gets coaches, it gets on calendars, it gets tournaments to be brought into Shreveport at a certain time, because we're talking about maybe 2023 of bringing some of them tournaments here. So there is some time that we do, the timeline that we do need to follow. But what I'm just saying today is not sit here and get bogged down on this. We need to be looking at the next complex that we need to be putting in Shreveport, Caddo Parish, and where it needs to be located. And if someone says it needs to be in West Shreveport, let's put it in West Shreveport. If it needs to be in the center part of the city, let's put it in the center part of the city. You know, I understand what Commissioner Burrell was talking about helping the stadium over there by Galilee. But in the past, it's always been a separate ordinance. Bring in a separate ordinance to come along with this one, you know, and not to take money away from one project to say, let's do it this way.
Do it all the time.
And so I just wanted to make sure that, you know, what he brings is valid point, but at the same time, not kill this or try to take money away from it to bring up another one. Bring that one up the same way. We run it through economic development, and we bring it back to the floor, and we vote on it. I mean, I think that would be the best thing to do, and that way everything will be on the up and up, and then we won't be saying, well, you had to do this for this particular one, you had to do that for that particular one, you didn't do this for that one. Let's do both of them the same way. Get the trustee board or the foundation of the stadium, get them to put together a plan, bring it to Economic Development Committee, let us hash it out, and then bring it before the full body. I mean, that would just be consistent with everything that's been going on today. Because I think both things are needed, but at the same time, let's be fair and do it in a justly manner. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure that I'm being clear that I don't want it to seem like I'm being stereotypical. I'm just being factual when it comes to the sports that the majority of the youth are playing now in the African American community. It's basketball and football. I did mention that I have a son who plays soccer when I talked about the Wise Soccer program, who's getting ready to try out for Cabosa. So he's moving to a more competitive league because that's where his passion is. And so I think The problem is, and I just spoke with my uncle, Kevin Pickens, that I mentioned earlier, is that we don't start the development for baseball or for soccer or for golf in our community as early as we probably should. The first thing we push them towards are the sports that we typically played or that we like. I'm guilty of that because when I had my first child, I had already been coaching football. And so because he watched me coach and watched me watch college football every Saturday, he just became accustomed to that. And so he just automatically thought he should play football. And at some point decided he no longer wanted to play it. And I stopped trying to force him to do so because that's not where his passion was. He was actually a really good baseball player, heck of a catcher. But I didn't invest in that early enough, and it just didn't keep his attention. He really wanted to keep playing basketball. That's what he was accustomed to doing. So I'm not putting any stereotypes on the young people from the community in which I serve and live in. That's just what I see them interested in doing. And I know that for a fact. Anytime I said when I was on my social media, anytime I share something about baseball, I don't get any response. But if I put something up about a kid being great in football, I got all these likes, these comments. Where is he going to sign in school? Just because where the culture has shifted within this parish. And that's just not in the black community. Within the white community as well, football is overtaken. Baseball used to be America's pastime. That's not the case. When the NFL season hits, people are going to go crazy. Absolutely crazy for NFL football, for college football. All right? Everybody's glued into the TV for the NBA conference finals right now. But baseball started a while ago after they got the CBA taken care of, and people aren't talking about baseball because it's not as popular as it used to be. One, because it is expensive, and there has to be an interest there. There has to be an interest. I took my T-ball team last year, and you can verify this with the kind folks at Galilee. I took my T-ball team to Stewart Bell Stadium to practice last year. I coached a team out at Evangel. A diverse team. I probably had about 5 black kids, 7 white kids. And we went to Allendale to practice. Now, at any point, when the practicing over there twice a week, did any child walk to that stadium interested in baseball? When I've coached football, I always have parents driving up, walking up. It's about where the interests are. So it's not about me saying, putting a stereotype on the kids. At the end of the day, this is an opportunity for us to bring, well, I think we've lost a huge picture. All these tournaments, they're going to be played year-round. Baseball is a year-round sport. So I don't have a problem with doing something at Stewart Bell Stadium. I just want the interest to come from the folks who actually own the stadium to want to do something, first of all. And second of all, I want them to be intentional about, just like when I was a child, they were intentional about getting us out there. And I just don't see that same effort now. That's what I'm getting at. And I had to keep repeating this, but I'm speaking from experience. Because I'm actively involved in it, I'm telling you, I do not see the interest there. And if the interest is there, yes, let's put the money behind it. But you got to have the children there. If we put $500,000 into their stadium and they're still not going to use it, they just painted a whole mural over there. Nobody's going. Whatever programs they do have, they are not very active or attractive. Now, maybe we can work with those programs to get them more attractive, to get the participation up. We got to have the participation there in order to make the investment. And what we can't be forced to do something that parents are not doing for their own children. How can we invest and be intentional when the parents don't even care to take their children to a baseball practice or to a soccer practice because they'd rather put their child in the more popular sport? And if you don't hang around youth sports, then you wouldn't know. Parents have become such a huge issue in youth sports. It's become such a big business as far as where I'm going to make my child play. Kids don't even play multiple sports anymore. They make their child play one sport year-round because everybody wants to make it big. Me, hey, whatever the next sport is, we're going to participate. And if my child's like, Dad, I just don't want to do that, then I go find something else to do. It doesn't have to be a sport. It may be something in the arts. It may be some type of summer camp that they want to participate in instead of playing over the summer. But nevertheless, the point is, We're trying to bring this here so that we can attract the scouts to our area instead of our children having to go out to the scouts. You don't even have to be on the best player on the team, but because they came to see who they thought was the best player, you shined that day. Now you got that scout's attention. Because here again, people will get to where they want to go. I'm from Cedar Grove, yet somehow somebody picked me up on a church van to drive me to Allendale. Didn't have to get on the city bus. But my mom will tell you we did catch city buses to my games because she was intentional about getting me there. And there's a bus stop on Ninth Street. There's more than one bus stop on Ninth Street. And if it's not there, I'm sure Mr. Narrow Washington would not mind making that adjustment because he's all about the community. I don't have a problem with talking to sport training. At the end of the day, here again, this is coming from me, the neophyte. I see an opportunity for us to do something great for our community at large. I see an economic development opportunity coming. I think we need to take advantage of it and do whatever else we need to do to get the interest back up in our community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to clarify my amendment, which is to have a match from the city of Shreveport. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Jackson it would require a match from the city of Shreveport on this $2 million proposed funding, and a second by Commissioner Epperson.
I won't even get into the private foundation matches or private individual matches. I am consistent on saying when Shreveport Common came down here and asked us for $1 million for a park, this meeting went about as long as this one here is going. They had already acquired the park. The city had already put some money in. The city had already gave them programming dollars. The state had put some money in. We still required a match to be shown. The medical school, when their deal came up, the state had already put the money in the capital outlay budget. We still required a match be approved. Galilee, for that project we just did in the ARP fund, they had already had the funds to acquire the building, acquire the property. We still required, because they said that they were working with the Caddo Parish School Board, we required an endorsement from the Caddo Parish School Board. We have never, and I want to emphasize that, we have never approved an expenditure of this amount doing capital improvements or capital projects without asking or requiring a match. Not what you have done, but what you're going to do. And we've done it all in the name of fiscal responsibility. I'm looking at this application, the application only asks for 1.4 million. And somehow we're here debating 2 million. When has that ever happened? Somebody come ask us for $1.5 million, but they gonna walk away with 2 million. With no obligation to find a match, no obligation to show that the project is fiscally sound, fiscally viable. What we've always said is, if it's viable, people will invest. People will come on board with it. So why not do the same on this project? I'm trying to get to what makes this project so, if it's the greatest project, the investors will come. But what we have always said is we don't want to tie up this much money and the project doesn't work out. And we've committed. We have always said that. Whether you were here or not, that is a fact. It's in writing. And all I'm asking us to do is is to be consistent with what we have done, and I have seen us do time and time and time again. We got a local municipality here. Even on the Amazon, we didn't require a match, but we required the city to endorse. Well, the state law required the city to endorse it, and people wouldn't move on until they heard from Tabitha Taylor. We've always required our local partner, the city of Shreveport, because what's going to happen when they say, well, we need SPAR to come help us program? Then what? I was so fiscally responsible with this Caddo Common Park, Dr. Wilson. I put the stipulation that we weren't going to do any programming after this. I don't see that on here. Are we on the hook for programming, or we not on the hook for programming? Is that stipulated?
No, sir. We don't. No, sir. We don't have no involvement in setting events at the park, sir.
Right, but is it stipulated? Because I stipulated it for Shrek.
Well, I haven't seen anything in writing.
See what I'm saying? So y'all will beat. I have been beaten up before, and I've come and I've tried to make all types of concessions to get us around smaller amounts. Here we are with a higher amount, and we don't want to do none of the concessions we've done for the higher amounts. That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't we want to do that? And so I impress up on this body to do what we have always and consistently done, which is require a local or whatever match we need to do, but there needs to be a match. There needs to be that match, because we've always said that, and it has proven to be successful. It's proven to be successful. After we supported the med school, Reverend James Green came right down here and did the same thing from the city of Shreveport. When we did that for Shrek, the city of Shreveport stepped up and put more, and their donors stepped up and put more in to get their match. It makes the projects better. It puts accountability in place for raising these dollars. That is what this is. That's what my amendment is about. And I want to make sure I focus us on the amendment. It don't have to be the city of Shreveport. Whoever. It needs to have, we need to make sure that the matching dollars come through. That's accountability. That's fiscal responsibility. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I wanted to shed some light on the fiscal responsibility. I agree with Commissioner Jackson on that, but one thing that wasn't discussed, and Mr. Wells is no longer with the Tourism Bureau, but Kelly Wells was in these conversations. He was reached from the city, and the city was investing the $6 million in the development of the sound stage, and they were going to do the wrestling, the indoor volleyball, the indoor basketball. They were going to do everything at the sound stage, and they didn't ask us for any money. So if they're investing $6 million, then we're only, it sounds like, coming out of pocket at a 33% investment at this, I think it was going to be called the Caddo Sports Complex, so it is going to have our name on it. So there is definitely a match, and we're kind of undermatched if we're looking at it from the standpoint of the city's putting in $6 million. But this is going to be, and I like what Commissioner Watt said, this is not just economic development, but this is community development. This is going to be an entire corridor from downtown, the heart of the city, down Clyde Fant, bringing in people from all over this regional area, bringing in true dollars, and really growing this area. This is going to be the identity. And I'm so thankful that we get to be a part of this. Unfortunately, Kelly Wells is no longer there at the Sports Commission. I have no idea what happened, but I think he still lives here, so he'll get to see the dream come true of what he was working on in conjunction of the conversation between the city and the parish of this corridor. So it's going to be amazing. Did want to make a comment. I said I am against depleting the funds that I know the YMCA needs to complete this project. I never said I was against putting them in a historic location. That was said a moment ago, so I want to clear that up. They're still under budget on this operation So I do want to see them get that entire $2 million. And I did say what a couple other commissioners said is, we would love to sit down after this, go back to Economic Development Committee or NGO and look at that historic site and see what we could do for other parts of the town.
That'll never happen.
Good, Mike.
Mr. President, for clarification, can I get a point of clarification? I'm looking at the application, I don't see a $6 million match from the city of Shreveport. Where is that coming from?
He's not saying that. He's saying that the city of Shreveport's investing $6 million in
another project.
in the
not this
downtown.
project. Right, okay, I just wanted to make sure we understand, not this project.
I'll yield back, President.
Thank you. You done, Commissioner Chavez? Commissioner, I'm just going to remind everybody, it's 6:05. We're about halfway through the agenda. Commissioner Epperson.
Once again, all of what I heard states that we should all go back to the table to include everybody. All of a sudden, I'm hearing who was at the table and they're no longer here now. But I don't, why shouldn't they be down here talking? But we should, all of us should have been at the table. All these ideas are good. I'm not against it. I'm just for the way that we got to this point in time. And the Economic Development Committee did not answer all the questions. And I know both gentlemen out in the audience that's down here advocated on behalf of it. And I think all the period of time, I've always been straight up and to the point with them and anybody else. Ken Epps is not gonna tiptoe through the tootle, nib around on the edge. I'm gonna tell you exactly how I feel. And I feel offended that you did not answer my follow-up questions. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna tell you what I said to the clerk. And then you're talking about 900,000 from private donors. Are they listed on the application? That amount? We need to go back to the table. We spending more time here hashing this around than we would if we went back to the table and started from scratch. And I think we could work this thing out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, that's just my final plea on this, Mr. President. I know we spoke about building this facility, and I'll say again, I am in support of any economic development initiative that I think that would be good for this committee. Matter of fact, I've built my whole career around economic development for almost 20-some years, especially urban development, because so many of our projects was leaving outside the city, and then most of our population was inside, although they may not have the wherewithal or the median family income of those who are out in our more suburban area. But nevertheless, they are part of our fiber, the fiber of our city. And if we build a facility like this, and half of your population, if what I'm hearing is true, that many black parents are not interested, black parents' kids are not interested in baseball, that means that the black parents are not basically interested in baseball. Then how do we build a project with only half of our community interested in it, unless we are only talking about drawing support from outside the city? And I've never seen that work, even with the Independence Bowl. I've been around here for 1,000 years. So I'm a little bit perplexed. Seems like we're talking two different issues here, which can be confusing. But I appreciate it. Whichever way it goes, fine. I just know that we need to put more money into our urban centers. And if you are intentional about it, the programs will grow. And they are not going to grow just by building facilities outside where most of your population is. You know, you're going to have to put the interest of the programs as well as the facilities somewhere close. And if you got a facility that's already there, that is probably 65% in terms of structure that is there, then why not add to it? From a preservation standpoint, this would be great. It could be a feeder program, but again, you got to be intentional. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, I would like to do a friendly amendment to Mr. Jackson's motion, is that we put in our cooperative endeavor that we ask that the YMCA shows to us $2 million in donations from either private, corporate, or governmental organizations beyond the amount that's been taken today.
I'll accept that.
Okay. And
All right.
so they can't do this park without all the money. We know that. So I think that amendment right there would cover, and it
That's
would be
probably what I've been trying to say all day.
would
I'm
be in our
sorry.
cooperative endeavor.
Okay, so just to make sure we understand the proposed amendment, that the cooperative endeavor agreement is between the parish and the YMCA would state that the YMCA would need to illustrate $2 million in support
Matching funds.
and matching funds from private, corporate, or governmental, other private, corporate, or governmental agencies. Well, no, I think it's just total.
Beyond what they've raised today?
Yeah, but beyond what's already been raised. We're showing in this application what's been raised to date as far as individual donors, in another private donor, and then our money.
I'll second that.
All right, so just for simplicity, Commissioner Jackson, does this supplant your motion?
Yeah, I mean,
Or your amendment?
he
Is that a
probably
yes?
said what I was trying to, but
Okay,
I accept that.
okay. All right, anything else, Commissioner Hopkins?
No, sir.
Okay, I believe this is the issue on the table now. There's no one else on the
Finally.
on the list. Chavez came up.
Thank you. Sorry, Commissioner, I know we've been talking about this a lot. I just want to check with administration. You guys saw the numbers. Will this amendment help them achieve their goal and not restrain it?
Well, let me answer that for you, Commissioner Chavez. That this is a $7 million project, or 7 to 9. I've heard both numbers. They have roughly 900 committed right now. Let's call it $1 million, and then we're proposing another $2 million, so that's 3. So for them to reach the state's the 1.7, that's 5. So they're going to have to raise another $2 to $4 million to meet their goals, and so, in raising that money, they should meet their,
They got to do
they
it
should
anyway.
meet this cooperative endeavor agreement requirement. All right.
Okay, so before you now is the vote on the amendment to have the CEA include that the YMCA shows a $2 million match beyond the money that's previously been raised.
Okay. Ready to vote? Everybody vote yes or no on the amendment.
Okay, and that motion carries with 9 in support and 3 in opposition. And that brings us, so that amends the motion on the floor, which is a substitute motion from Commissioner Burrell to take the $500,000 of this $2 million allocation and put it towards Bell Stadium.
Okay, you ready to vote on that? This is as amended though, right?
Yeah, this is as amended.
And just for clarity, if this does not pass, then it would go to the original motion, and the original motion would be as amended also, correct?
I believe that's how the amendment was intended.
Okay.
And it looks from the authors nodding that that is how they intended it.
Okay, all right, so just for clarity, I want everybody to know what we're voting on now. Mr. Clerk, would you please reiterate what we're voting on here?
Right now, you are voting on a substitute motion from Commissioner Burrell that would adopt ordinance 6229, but take $500,000 of the $2 million and put it towards the Stuart Bell Stadium, and that would also have a caveat in the cooperative endeavor agreement that the YMCA shows a $2 million match beyond the
Okay.
money previously raised.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Let's vote.
Okay, and that motion fails with 4 in support and 8 in opposition. And then that brings us to the previous motion, which is to adopt ordinance 6229 of 2022. And as I understand it, this is intended to be amended with that same caveat in the cooperative endeavor agreement. However, I would love to hear from the parish attorney if she thinks that we do need to record a secondary vote on that. I'm happy to call that. I just want to make sure Donna and I are consistent with this. You feel it's clear?
Ahead.
I feel it's clear.
All right.
Yes.
Let's vote.
Okay. All right, and that motion carries with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And that brings us then to our next section on the agenda, which is zoning ordinances for introduction by title, which we have none today. So that'll bring us forward to ordinances for introduction by title. We have a number of these today, and I'll begin. 16.1 is to introduce ordinance number 6230 of 2022. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Riverboat Fund for the Oil and Gas Fund in the amount of $6,500 to provide an appropriation for wildlife education and rehabilitation of Louisiana and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is the introduction of ordinance number 6231 of 2022. That's an ordinance setting the parish millage for the purpose of paying principal and interest due in 2022 on outstanding parish bond issues and to instruct the assessor to include said millage on the tax rolls of the parish of Caddo for the year 2022 and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. In the sake of clarity, there is a note here included that does mention that each year the commission needs to set the necessary tax millage to produce enough ad valorem revenue to pay the principal and interest due for the current year, and in 2022 a millage rate of 1.5 mils will produce the necessary ad valorem revenue to pay the 2022 principal and interest. That statement is there to help clear up any confusion between the other millage discussions that y'all have been having. So just want to share that in case there are questions. The next item is the introduction of ordinance number 6232 of 2022. That's an ordinance to set the general purpose and special purpose millages, providing for millage rate adjustments as allowed by Article 7, Section 23 of the Louisiana Constitution of 1974 and Louisiana Revised Statutes 47:1705B, levying and imposing taxes and assessments for 2022 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Caddo and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is the introduction of ordinance number 6233 of 2022, an ordinance to adopt the values fixed or to be fixed by the Louisiana Tax Commission on all assessments for railways and other public service corporations, and to instruct the assessor to extend such assessments and values on the tax rolls of the parish of Caddo for the year 2022 and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The following item is the introduction of ordinance number 6234 of 2022. That's an ordinance setting the assessment of property classified as timberlands and to instruct the assessor to include said assessment on the tax roll of the parish of Caddo for the year 2022 and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is the introduction of ordinance number 6235 of 2022. That's an ordinance to deem property surplus and authorize the sale of surplus property owned by the parish of Caddo and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. By the way, there was a request to include an exhibit which has been included on that item for your reference. The next one is to introduce ordinance number 6236 of 2022. That's an ordinance requiring that all parish employees hired, appointed, or promoted to parish attorney, assistant parish administrator CEO, department director, or commission clerk must be residents of Caddo Parish and otherwise provide with respect thereto. The next item is the introduction of ordinance number 6238 of 2022. That's an ordinance adopting Section 32-62 of the Code of Ordinances prohibiting possession or carriage in a motor vehicle on public roads of firearms with a magazine capable of holding more than 20 rounds of ammunition, to provide for penalties for violation to the ordinance, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. And that concludes the items that are being introduced for ordinances for consideration. That brings us to the next section on our agenda, which is work session minutes, where you have attached your minutes from the May 16th.
We have a motion from Commissioner Epperson, a second from Commissioner John Paul Young to approve the minutes. Could we vote on that?
All right, and that motion carries with 9 in support, none in opposition, and 3 absent. That brings us to resolutions. You have 2 resolutions today to consider. The first is resolution number 31 of 2022. That's a resolution regarding a joint project with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development for extension of Louisiana 3276 to LA1 to commit the parish to fulfillment of certain obligations regarding transfer of parish roads and state highways in connection with that joint project, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Move to approve.
You do have some items attached.
We have a motion from Commissioner Jackson and a second from Commissioner Hopkins to approve. Was that you, Commissioner Jackson?
Wait a minute. Now this is just the resolution saying we're going to do it, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, this is a resolution, and just to, so there's no confusion, you also had an ordinance related to this subject that has been referred to a committee. We are actively working on assigning a date for that committee meeting right now. But this is the companion resolution.
Does your
This was
motion
not
stand,
this.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Jackson, a second from Commissioner Hopkins. Any other questions? Commissioner,
Yeah,
question?
just, unless y'all just want to stay here and let me get my, 10 plus 10 would be 20 minutes out. I'd like to englobo resolution 31 and 32 at this time.
Second.
I object.
Oh, my bad.
Would you, are you willing to withdraw your motion, Commissioner Jackson?
I thought I heard of somebody say a second.
Yeah, you did get a second from Commissioner Epperson, I think. We can vote on it if you want.
And I also need to point out that this still says I-49 too.
It's, yeah, so the reason for that is that this is part of the I-49, I-69 interchange.
Okay.
So it's related to both interstates, and so we kept it with the labeling that it was labeled from the DOTD. But thank you for asking that, and I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. Because this project is related to the intersection or the access between those two interstates. So it can be confusing, but it does have that number.
Okay, so Commissioner Jackson has a motion to englobo and advance Resolution 31 and Resolution 32. We'll be voting on that now. A vote for that englobos and advances these. A vote against just doesn't englobo, I guess, and we take them individually.
Yeah, a vote for that would englobo and adopt both of them.
Sorry,
So
that's
a
what I
vote
meant.
for this motion would adopt both resolutions.
Yeah. Okay, we ready?
And that motion does not carry with 3 in support and 6 in opposition. It would be in order if there were.
Is there a resolution to advance item 31?
Move to approve item 31.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Jackson to adopt or approve Resolution 31, a second from Commissioner Young. All right, would you like to speak on your motion, Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, sir. Y'all got the time?
You're entitled to it.
Dr. Wilson, have we gotten in touch with LADOTD yet?
Yes, sir.
On this?
Yes.
Is Mr.
We actually waiting for them to get back to us when they can come.
When they can come, are they coming to the committee or?
Yeah, committee meeting.
Okay, and then I saw on here, because I am gonna have some questions about, the commitment that the parish is making. I heard our public works director say that we committed $2 million to this project. How much has the other?
Everybody put in, the Solar Parish put in $2 million, Port's putting in $2 million, the state putting up $20 million.
Mm-hmm. And is this undeveloped land that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's Parish Road.
I'm saying the area, is it undeveloped land?
Yes, rural. That's rural areas.
Rural undeveloped land. So right now we don't know what's going to be in there 10 years from now or what. We just.
Yes, sir. We hope I-69.
Well, I'm talking about around it, obviously.
Oh, I have no idea.
And does this fall within that 5 mile?
No, sir.
This is outside of the 5 mile.
Way outside.
So there's no zoning.
No, sir.
None of that.
None
So
of that.
Wild Wild West.
Pretty much.
I can go put Jackson's Boom Boom Room down
That's
if I want
correct.
to right now.
Yes.
I just asked.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. And y'all, okay. Well, I'll be definitely looking forward to hearing a concise, because this, this just says this is what our intent is. This is not committing us to do anything, does this?
Yes, sir. We pretty much committed. We've been talking about this since 2020. And,
I thought the resolution was our intent to say we will consider doing this.
Yes,
This
sir.
resolution binds us?
Yes, sir. This resolution allows a grant process to go forward.
Right, but I'm asking, does this resolution bind us?
The ordinance itself will bind us. And
Right,
it's in
that's what I'm
accordance-
asking.
In accordance with what the state has
I got
requested
you.
of us.
That's what I was asking.
Yes,
Does
sir.
this resolution specifically?
No resolution that binds us, sir. We passed resolution that we just say, no, we're not gonna do it.
Gotcha.
But the intent is they be able to get the grant, apply for a grant to get the extra funds to do the project.
And I thought the port was getting a grant. Now, we're applying
Yeah,
for the
no-
grant?
No, sir.
Or is
The
it a joint?
port is. We in a joint venture with the port.
Okay. And so will that joint venture come with any other?
Other than the funding, I just stipulated a few minutes ago.
Okay.
No, sir.
Gotcha. I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to seeing that and seeing what comes of this. Is Mr. North or Kevin coming, or you don't know yet?
Commissioner Hopkins, did you?
If you don't mind,
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I spoke to Mr. North, and he's unable to come out now, and his staff's out of pocket. But we're going to try to meet next Thursday.
Okay.
And if by maybe the committee can meet as a whole, we might can Zoom him in or something like that. He's not able to come into an environment like a meeting right now.
Right.
Okay.
So
And what about Kevin, his chief engineer?
I think he's going to conference.
Oh, I got you.
So that's kind of where we are.
I think his whole department was out this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, most
Yes,
of the
sir.
departments
For
are
training.
at conference or on vacation.
Right.
And he's out
It must be nice.
for other reasons.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'll be definitely looking forward to.
He'll be able to answer the state part of that equation.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch up.
No, we get.
Oh, they were answering some questions for you.
Okay.
I'll spare y'all a minute. I'm good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. All right, thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Seeing no one else. Are we voting on this? I've lost track. Are we
Yes,
voting?
sir. Yes, sir.
Voting on
Yes, voting on
resolution
resolution 31. And that motion carries with 8 in support and none in opposition. That brings us to Resolution 32, a resolution to call upon the federal government to urgently address the student loan crisis and enact a plan to cancel student loan debt and begin the transition to education as a public good, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to postpone to, I'm sorry. I'll yield, Commissioner Epperson.
Commissioner Epperson?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Epperson to adopt and a second from Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing nobody on the board, let's vote.
All right, that motion does not carry. It has 3 in support and 5 in opposition, with 4 absent. And that brings us to old business, where we have nothing scheduled, nor do we have any things scheduled under new business today. So that brings us all the way to communiques and committee reports. I know that we did have a couple of requests from commissioners for items under this section, so I'm sure they'll get on the board.
Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a final note, I just want to address this to my Economic Development Chair / mayoral candidate, that we do need economic development in the urban centers too. And as I said, I'm supportive of these issues regardless of where they are. But at the same time, we have facilities that we don't invest in. We have communities that we don't invest in. Last I checked, all of these areas are part of Shreveport. And you can cut off your nose to spite your face, but at the same time, what affects outside the urban centers also affect what's inside the urban centers. I just happen to be an urban, well, I call it urban, you could call it inner city, whatever you want to call it, commissioner. Very little money is spent from this body, which is one of the reasons why I ran for the office. I've been, as you know, I've been on the city council, I've been at the state level, now I'm at the commission. And very little money other than putting our kids in jail, in a juvenile detention center, and mosquito abatement, about probably where we probably spend more of our money. We don't do it on law enforcement, we don't do it on economic development, or any of those issues. So if Shreveport's going to be a part of Caddo, then I think it should be, and we should consider the urban center when we also consider Caddo, our Caddo Commission work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Talaferro?
Thank you, Mr. President. As Law Enforcement Week wraps up and comes to an end, I'd like us to be mindful not to take it for granted the service of our local law enforcement officers and those throughout our nation who perform a great service for us each and every day. I'd like to thank the commissioners who attended our local Peace Officer Memorial Day ceremonies. We remember those law enforcement officers who paid the ultimate sacrifice with their lives, who stood in the gap of good between good and evil. Year to date, we have lost 107 officers nationwide, and in 2021, we lost 179. For those of you that may remember the radio host Paul Harvey, it did a tribute to our policemen, and that was the term used back then. And it's still fitting to this day, and I thought it would be appropriate, and I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody about the true impact that good police officers and law enforcement officials have on our community by keeping the wolves away from our doors. And I'd like the staff to go ahead and play that as we close today.
Policeman. A policeman is a composite of what all men are, I guess, a mingling of saint and sinner, dust and deity. Culled statistics wave the fan over stinkers, underscore instances of dishonesty and brutality because they are news. What that really means is that they are exceptional, they are unusual, they are not commonplace. Buried under the froth is the fact. And the fact is that less than 0.5% of policemen misfit that uniform. And that is a better average than you'd find among clergymen. What is a policeman? He of all men is at once the most needed and the most wanted. A strangely nameless creature who is sir to his face and pig or worse behind his back. He must be such a diplomat that he can settle differences between individuals so that each will think he won, but if a policeman is neat, he's conceited. If he's careless, he's a bum. If he's pleasant, he's a flirt. If he's not, he's a grouch. He must make instant decisions which would require months for a lawyer, but If he hurries, he's careless. If he is deliberate, he's lazy. He must be first to an accident, infallible with a diagnosis. He must be able to start breathing, stop bleeding, tie splints, and above all, be sure the victim goes home without a limp or expect to be sued. The police officer must know every gun, draw on the run, and hit where it doesn't hurt. He must be able to whip two men twice his size and half his age without damaging his uniform and without being brutal. If you hit him, he's a coward. If he hits you, he's a bully. A policeman must know everything and not tell. He must know where all of the sin is and not partake. The policeman from a single human hair must be able to describe the crime, the weapon, the criminal, and tell you where the criminal is hiding, but if he catches the criminal, he's lucky. If he doesn't, he's a dunce. If he gets promoted, he has political pull. If he doesn't, he's a dullard. The policeman must chase bum leads to a dead end, stake out 10 nights to tag one witness who saw it happen but refuses to remember. He runs files and writes reports until his eyes ache to build a case against some felon who will get dealed out by a shameless Seamus or an honorable who isn't honorable. The policeman must be a minister, a social worker, a diplomat, a tough guy, and a gentleman. And of course he'll have to be a genius because he'll have to feed a family on a policeman's salary.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Telfaro. Commissioner Jack, oh, sorry, that's your second time, so, was it not? I thought, my apologies. Go ahead if you haven't spoken in this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just point out, and I'm glad we had that. I just want to note that, you know, the exchange the President and I had earlier wasn't anything to be confrontational. We have rules of decorum here, and they need to be respected by all visitors. If certain individuals, because I had some constituents that were texting me while we were in session here, if certain individuals had come down and was calling out or hollering out from the audience, we would see to it that they are put in their place or that they are corrected. And so that's all I'm asking for, is that we enforce those rules across the board. So I don't want anybody to think I was attacking Commission President Atkins or being out of order. We're just asking for the same decorum across the board for all of our participants, because our commission bylaws specifically say what individuals should come in here and do as visitors for our meeting. I want to thank Mr. Clark and the MPC staff. I sent y'all a note early this week about a young lady who's looking to open a business. She's excited, and I appreciate y'all for doing that. I do want to ask, since y'all are no longer regulating y'all no longer regulate RVs in residential areas, is that now a property standards issue, or is it just permissible? Good Lord. And so you can park an RV across your yard, but you can't park your truck or your car across your yard. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to get an answer to it.
Come on, Mr. Park.
I'm specifically talking about across their yard.
In the city limits of Shreveport, the Shreveport police is in charge of enforcement of parking on the grass, not the MPC.
Gotcha. But in the driveway, it's permitted.
In the driveway, it's permissible.
Across the yard is a different ballgame. Thank you. So I appreciate y'all, and I'll be following up with them on that. Dr. Wilson, I did email you early this week on ERAP 2. I'd like to have a discussion about how we can work on with what may be potential funding on the way, how we can work on homeless stability and homeless prevention. In that, I'm letting you know up front, I think we have done a great job at providing rental arrears and rent forward. I'm an advocate of getting folks caught up where they're behind, but I do recognize that we can pay rent until the cows come home. and the cows may never come home. And we'll run through that money pretty fast. I do think we need to figure out, there are some housing stability services that I think we can expand upon, as well as the eviction situations that's also going on. So I would like to discuss what the funding that may be on the way, but I'm told that it was adopted and should be on the way. The other thing is, I just want to just urge our body, I applaud Commissioner Hopkins for being a person of reason and, not because he's my seatmate, but today clearly indicated, and I usually text folks this, Commissioner Chavez, I've done nothing to lose the trust of anybody up here. But what was demonstrated today is there's a clear, and I don't know if it's inherent or what, lack of trust, because his amendment was really no different than mine. The individual organizations would have to reach that goal regardless. And so we've done it before, and in fact, I think the motions have come from you to put those on there, and I agreed to them. I am going to always be for doing things that is consistent around this horseshoe. I have always said we should not pick winners and losers. And when we start saying what we will do for one that we haven't done to the other, then that's when we start really getting into the picking who's winning, who's losing. Because at the end of the day, if their goal was $7 million, they were going to have to get the $7 million come hell or high water. And all my amendment was to show us that you get to the $7 million. Is that what you said you was going to do? If the project was $9 million, you got to eventually get to that dollar mark. And so it was a very common sense motion, but it was demonstrated that there is some levels of trust issues or something that's going on that I hope as a body we can work through. And I've tried. I give FAQs. I meet with people. I talk to people. I text you in the middle of the night when it's on my mind before I go to sleep. All I'm asking for us to do is to treat every organization the same. Because as I was sitting here also, I had organizations ask me, well, how y'all can give this organization $2 million, but we just told another group of folks that, we couldn't give them $10,000 to do some stuff out of the Economic Development Fund. So we have to balance all of that. I voted for the Y project. I simply asked for some transparency and some accountability, some fiscal responsibility around what we were doing, which is what we have always done. So I appreciate Commissioner Hopkins for seeing that through for me. And what I have learned is sometimes it's not what's being done, it's who's doing it. And that when we're all trying to work for the betterment of our city or our parish, that's unfortunate that it has to be presented by a certain somebody to get across. So I look forward to the additional conversations about where we're going to invest next. Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for having a good meeting.
Thank
It's
you.
long, but good.
It's been a long one. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Chavez, go ahead. I'll come up.
Sure,
after you.
thanks, President. I wasn't going to touch on that, but Commissioner Jackson brought it up. My concern with that amendment was putting the stipulation on the city on whether or not they were going to pony up any money. And if they decided not to, then unfortunately our funding wouldn't be applicable to their project. And more importantly, if they weren't at the point where they had entire funding because of our government contract that they can show to the bank and get a factoring loan, they could put down a 70% down payment and finance out the rest of that to make this come to fruition, to be that economic driver. Now, I am the chair of economic development, and I do commercial property, and I know how this works. So to say that we have to wait till they have every last penny when they can go get financing via a loan with that contract from our department, I didn't want to put that stipulation in place to adhere to them not getting this project complete when all they would need is to show that we allocated the funds. But then we stuck an amendment on there that wouldn't allow them to get that loan until they had every last penny. That's not economic development, but that's okay. It still worked. They're going to get it. There was a concession made, and this is how working together obviously is accomplished. So it'll be a moot point. Want to show a cool picture from today. If you guys,
Yes,
I got to hang out with two bodybuilders, and it is the Fit for Life Optimum Classic weekend. I'm sure you guys recognize one of them. He's very famous in Caddo Parish. And the other one that we got to hang out with was Lee Haney. So that's also pretty awesome. Right? That was today. He got to welcome and kick off Superman Robert Blunt's Fit for Life event, the Optimum Classic. So that will be going on starting tomorrow. Obviously, we are a sponsor, so I would invite my commission buddies to come out there and see what's going on. This is another economic driver. It's the biggest show that the IFBB Pro puts on in the world. They have more people coming here from other continents than anywhere else in the world. And we have this right here in Caddo Parish. Starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the Convention Center, and also goes on at Saturday at 9 a.m. So you can go out there, and I'm sure Dr. Wilson will be there. Thank you, President.
Thank you. I was just going to reiterate an issue around Commissioner Jackson's comment. Stephen, to me, Commissioner Jackson, the language that Commissioner Hopkins used for some reason just resonated more with me, and I was like, oh, well, that's probably, manageable. So there was no personal slight intended. It was just kind of like a aha kind of moment. And then Commissioner Burrell, I think, has left, but he was saying that very little was invested within the inner city from the parish. But I believe the numbers I've seen, Dr. Wilson, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but roughly 30% of our budget is involved with some sort of law enforcement practice. That's juvenile services and juvenile justice and probation.
CCC.
CCC, big capital expenditures and operating expenditures there. And then our appropriations to the district attorney's office and the district judge. So that's a big chunk of our budget that goes into various forms of law enforcement that impact both the city and the parish. So I just wanted to make that point. And with that being said, I see no one else on the board, so I'll take a motion for adjournment. Okay, second. Thank you, everyone.